The story begins with the protagonist asking readers, if they had the opportunity to be reborn, what would they want to accomplish in their new life? The girl wants to be a popular movie star when she grows up. She asked what Yuebin dreams of becoming when she grows up. The guy replied that he wanted to combine all forms: dragon, snake, tiger, leopard, elephant, crane. Yuebin wants to become the greatest martial arts master. He will protect the girl with his fists and beat anyone who tries to harm her. The girl was embarrassed. She thought that Yuebing knew how to win a lady's heart. The girl's father had recently gotten a promotion, and her family would be moving to the capital tomorrow. Yuebin was very surprised. In the near future, the two will not be able to see each other. The girl suggested that they promise each other that they will go to Fei Cheng Language University, where they will realize their dreams. The girl asked her not to forget her. Her name was Junlin, which means beloved and graceful. Yuebing, on emotion, quickly ran somewhere. He was overflowing with energy. He felt that he should practice. The guy jogged over to the martial arts hall, an ancient sign hanging on it. He is out of breath and asked his grandfather to teach him Kung Fu soon, because he wants to become a great master. Grandpa practiced Kung Fu with Yuebin. He was a strict teacher, but never blamed for lack of interest. Grandpa said that from that day on, they would not practice anymore. Yuebing's grandfather was sitting in front of the TV. He said that it could be considered that Chinese Kung Fu no longer existed. At the time, Yuebin didn't realize how serious it was. The scene that was shown on TV left a huge mark on his life and the entire martial arts community. The bout was over, and the winner was China's first MMA rookie Ji Yuanfeng. In this competition, the modern style was up against traditional martial arts, and Mr. Taekwondo couldn't do anything. The heart of Yuebing's grandfather could not bear such an offense, and he soon passed away. China began to develop vigorously. Everything around them changed. Their small town where the guy grew up started to expand. Then, it became a capital city. It was the year 2018. Someone called out to a boy who was standing in the street and asked him to stop for a moment. It was a man in a bear suit, inviting the guy to study martial arts and join his sect. He was advertising his 7-form dojo. A month of training there cost 300 yuan. The boy was very frightened of the bear and cried. The child had already turned around. He was alone in the street and was very scared. The boy called out to his mom. The man in the bear suit tried to calm the child down and was ready to make a discount for him. At this time, the child's mom came up. She yelled at the man and hit him. She thought that no one wanted to learn martial arts anymore. Underneath the bear suit was Yuebing. He was 28 years old, a master of the 7 forms of martial arts, still unmarried. Today, he failed to find disciples again. If this continued, he would definitely starve to death. At this moment, Yuebin heard the news that the world-famous movie star Junlin was getting married and was being broadcast live from the scene. The engagement was sponsored by a jewelry store. It is going to release its anniversary products. The television showed the groom placing the engagement ring on his bride's ring finger. The engagement was complete. The groom is an executive of Hu International Company. His name is Yang Feng, and the bride, in her 30s, has been honored with many local and world awards. The girl advertised her engagement ring and thanked all the guests for their congratulations. Yuebing thought that Junlin was still just as beautiful despite the passage of so many years. The guy realized that they were no longer in the same world. Their lives were drastically different. But if Yuebing hadn't lost that match, he would still have a chance to be with her. In the past, Yuebin had broken his forearm during one of his matches and the limb was separated. The guy was lying on the floor all beaten up, tears streaming from his eyes because of the defeat. Because of such serious injuries, Yuebin would never be able to fight again. Baker had treated his arm too harshly. Traditional Chinese Kung Fu now found itself defeated by modern martial arts. This night was the doom of Kung Fu. Yuebing was going to use the tournament money to buy himself a big house and for it to be nice enough to marry this girl. And in the end, Yuebing lost his hand. One hold and it was over. He felt sorry that he wouldn't be able to fulfill his promise. Night came. Yuebin returned to his apartment. He received a notification on his phone. They wrote to him that they were inviting all the old classmates to a reunion, including Yuebin, and they were meeting at the Haizheng Tai Chi Hotel. Yuebing felt that this would be a good opportunity for Huang Yao to show off. He was going to refuse. At that moment, another message notification came to the guy's phone. Yuebing was shocked when he read it. He didn't expect to see this. He was texted that Junlin was also coming and it would also be her birthday. Yuebing had time to think. This news had excited him. Now he was going to come to the meeting, and it was all because of Junlin. The guy really wanted to see her. Even though deep inside Yuebing kept telling himself no, he still came anyway. The guy was very nervous before meeting her. Yuebing brought a present with him and hoped that Junlin would like it. The guy heard him being talked about from behind closed doors. Yuebing thought that someone remembered him after all. He kept hesitating to go inside the hotel. His classmates thought he wouldn't show up because he didn't fit in with the others and doesn't want to embarrass himself. The former class chairman didn't want to invite him either. It was the headman who said to do it. He stealthily approached the guys. The class president was Yang Feng, and he apologized for insisting on inviting Yue Bing. The class chairman immediately started sucking up to him and decided to toast him. Yang Feng explained that his fiancée would appear a little later. He also felt that there was no need to wait for Yue Bing since he definitely wouldn't show up. Yang Feng was going to go socialize with other people and not bother the guys anymore. Yue Bing was shocked that Junlin's fiancée was also here. Plus, he was basically the one who invited the guy. The guys thought Yue Bing's life was miserable. Wrestling could have given him a bright future, but unfortunately, he broke his arm. Some thought he should have given up then. After all, it was just a petty competition. The chairman felt that it didn't matter whether the guy would have lost or given up. After all, he was still on the losing end. He asked if the guys knew who the organizer of the match was. Turns out it was Hu's group, the same group that invited the King of Invasions to China. Brother Hu wanted Junling to be his girlfriend, but it wasn't working out because of Yue Bin, so he decided to get rid of him. The guys thought that the headman had invited Yue Bing to this meeting to sprinkle salt on the wound. The boy heard all this and became very angry. Yue Bing remembered seeing Junling on TV. He wasn't sure if she would be happy if he killed her fiancé. Yue Bing felt that if he did that, he would ruin Junlin's life. The guy's life was already ruined, so he had nothing to lose. Yue Bing felt that that time had already passed, and this world was already closed to him. He let the gift out of his hands. At that moment, someone called out to Yue Bin and said that he had dropped something. The guy replied that he didn't need it anymore. It was Junlin. She thought it was a fan who had left a gift in a strange way. She was going to open it. Junling looked at Yue Bin's wake and was very surprised. She couldn't believe her eyes. Junling shouted after Yue Bin. She asked him to wait. Yue Bin seemed familiar. She felt like she knew him. She asked if the guy's name was Yue Bin. The guy replied that he didn't know any Yue Bin and thought the girl was confusing him with someone else. The gift to the girl was a starry night ring of endless love. It was to be given to the one he loved the most. Yue Bing turned around and looked at Junlin. He was shocked after all. He didn't expect to meet her there. When Junlin saw this gift, she immediately realized that Yue Bing was in front of her. She was very happy to meet him. Yue Bing was about to leave this place. He never thought that they would meet there. Yue Bing decided to start a dialogue. He said that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. At that time, a huge truck was driving down the road, its headlights on. Yue Bin noticed the truck. He was shocked. The guy didn't know what to do. The truck was flying at full speed. It wasn't going to stop for the guys. Zhang Lingna drove straight at Zhang Ling. She was standing on the road. At this time, Yue Bing was standing next to her. There were sounds of collision. It was clear that Zhang Lina had crashed into a person. There was blood on the ground. The truck drove forward some more and stopped. Zhang Ling was sitting on the pavement. She was alive, however. The girl was crying and calling Yue Bing's name. The guy pushed her away. The girl cried and asked why Yue Bin did it and why he was such a fool. Yue Bin was lying on the ground. He had serious injuries. Junlin told him not to move. She was going to call an ambulance. Yue Bing was pondering the situation at this time. It seemed strange to him, after all. It was forbidden to drive a heavy vehicle here. Plus, this truck wasn't honking. It wasn't even trying to slow down. Yue Bin realized that this was not an accident at all, and everything was planned. A masked man got out of the truck. This man wanted to run over Junlin and end it all. He never thought that someone would get in his way. The man presented the gun to Junling's temple. The girl was in a stupor and cried bitterly. The man's task was to take Junlin's life. He was ruthless and had no intention of stopping. The man smirked. He said goodbye to Junlin and was ready to execute his plan as well. The girl smiled and said that if they were to be reborn, they should continue practicing martial arts. She asked them not to forget her name. Yue Bing screamed. He didn't want to believe what had happened. A gunshot was heard. That shot sounded like the ringing of bells. Yue Bing gradually started to lose consciousness, and while the life was slowly leaving the guy, he remembered a story. It was a story about a butterfly that flapping its wings in Iowa can cause an avalanche of effects that can be seen as far away as Indonesia. It's the butterfly effect. The day Chinese Kungfu died completely ruined the guy's life. In fact, that fight was inevitable, but Yue Bing was not okay with it. He couldn't accept that he would die this way. If Yue Bing could live his life one more time, he would be the wisest person on the planet. Yue Bing suddenly woke up in his room. He was lying on the bed and didn't understand what had happened. The TV was on in his room. There was a news program on. The presenter said that tomorrow is the opening ceremony of the first Olympic Games in Beijing in the year 2008. Yue Bing was shocked that it was the 2008th year. He didn't understand what had happened and how this could be. Yue Bing walked out of the house and quickly went to the mountain. He was very out of breath, however. He kept climbing. His grandfather had told him that there were many martial arts schools in this world, but there were not many great masters. The one who knows all the techniques are above other great masters, and to reach the top, a guy needs to master all 7 techniques. Yue Bing was standing on top of a hill. The weather around was warm and a light breeze was blowing. Yue Bing realized that there weren't many skyscrapers in the city. The air was quite clean. This was how his city was 10 years ago. He realized that he had been reborn. This time the guy was going to follow his dream step by step and get it all back. Yue Bing was determined to become a great martial arts master and revive Kung Fu. In the 2006 year, the shares of most electronic companies were cheap. Yue Bing was going to buy them and wait until the 2018 year. In 2008 year, the average real estate price in the city was small. In 10 years, it would skyrocket. Yue Bing was going to buy a few apartments and then rent them out. In the 2008 year, there are several popular games that are not yet fully developed. Yue Bing would like to buy the company and become the CEO. The next 10 years would see an economic boom, and now Yue Bing was caught in the beginning of the golden decade. Yue Bing thought he had all the winning cards and was going to blow his life apart. But in this life, Yue Bing has one duty that he will have to fulfill. And it's a chore. Even though Yue Bing is reborn, he's limited by his own abilities and money. That is why there is a saying, even if one can be reborn in this life, nothing will change. At this moment, Yue Bing's father walked into the room, and he thought it was strange that his son was cleaning up. After all, he was going to an internet cafe. Yue Bing replied that he saw that the house was dirty and decided to clean it up. He asked his father to bring the groceries to the kitchen because he was going to cook dinner. Yue Bing's father abruptly dropped the grocery bag on the floor. Yue Bing turned around in surprise. His father noticed that Yue Bing went to the internet cafe every day and rarely came home. His father didn't understand why his son decided to do the cleaning today. Yue Bing took away the cigarette. He had told him many times not to smoke. After all, smoking is very bad for health. He said his father should not worry about going to university. Yue Bing was strongly insisted to enroll in Fei Cheng's language school. The father didn't recognize his son. He even thought the man was possessed by a ghost. A few days later, Yue Bing received a package. He hurriedly opened it. It was an enrollment letter from Fei Cheng University. Yue Bing was accepted as a student for the 2008 year. Yue Bing's father cried with happiness and spoke to his late wife's picture. For his son would be the first person in the family's history to receive a higher education. The father was willing to sell the house and liquidate all their assets just to send their son to university. Yue Bing told his father not to exaggerate. After all, students were like grass right now. But it had actually become quite popular already. Father yelled at Yue Bing. After all, this university was special. He had already found all the information about it on the internet. This university is on the first place in the province. Besides, there is a very large number of beauties there. Yue Bing's father really wanted his son to come back with a beautiful girl for the vacations, and then he could become a grandfather in a few years. Yue Bing wouldn't be fazed by such talk. His father told his son to study hard and not to practice confab, because his knowledge would not feed Yue Bing. There was not enough money for the boy's studies and living expenses, so father decided to sell the house. Half of the money will go to Yue Bing's education, half will be invested in a small business. In the past life, Yue Bing's father also sold the house. And in fact, the relationship in their household is not so good. In that life, his father also started a small business, but then the economic crisis happened and they lost money. Also because of this boom, the house skyrocketed in value after a couple years and there was no way they could buy it back. My father became depressed. Yue Bing got angry. He didn't want his father to pitch the house. He was willing to work things out about the tuition himself. The tuition for 1 year is 5,000 yuan. With everything else, he will need about 10,000. Yue Bing really wished that his father didn't have to worry about him. After all, he could solve everything on his own. A little later, Yue Bing was practicing his punches in the forest. He was trying to diffuse his emotions. In this life, the guy has to make sure that his family comes to power and will then live long and prosper, even better than Hu Shi's family. 2 months later, it was time to check in at the university, the older students helping the newcomers with their luggage. 2 girls passed by Yue Bing. They were surprised at the guy's appearance and asked since when, and the school started enrolling African students. Yue Bing was standing near a cherry blossom tree. He had entered this university again. In his past life, he had promised to meet Jun Lin again under the famous love tree of the campus. But in his past life, he couldn't keep his promise. The sight of this tree makes Yue Bing feel nostalgic. He never thought that he would be reliving his college years again. The guy was going to take a picture of the cherry blossoms as a keepsake. He pulled out his phone. As suddenly, someone came up to him from behind and disturbed the guy. Yue Bing turned around in surprise. He didn't expect anyone to approach him. There was a girl in front of Yue Bing. She apologized and wanted to ask Yue Bing something. At this moment, Yue Bing recalled a scene from his past life as well. How Jun Ling asked him not to forget her and told him what her name meant. Yue Bing was surprised that he remembered this particular scene. This time when he thought about it, he felt unusual. Jiang Ling stood in front of Yue Bing. She smiled welcomingly and asked if Yue Bing knew how to get to the girls' dormitory. Yue Bing still had very hazy memories of his past life. At that time, Jun Ling recognized Yue Bing and was surprised that they went to the same university. The girl smiled in her past life. She noticed that it had been a really long time and suggested that they have dinner together tonight because there was a lot of catching up to do. Yue Bing then replied that he needed to help his guild raid the boss and offered to talk another time. And now Yue Bing decided that things were going to be different. He was going to go from a boy to a real man. His body started to move on its own. He hugged Junlin tightly and wasn't going to let her go. The girl stammered, her face flushed. She didn't seem very pleased with the gesture. Junling slapped Yue Bing and called him a pervert. Yue Bing didn't expect such a reaction. Yue Bing had nothing else to do but to go to the men's dormitory to check in. The boy came to room 419. This would be where he would spend his college years. Yue Bing failed. Not only would the guy not be recognized by Junling, but probably by his own parents as well. At least Yue Bing managed to take a photo of Junlin in front of the sakura tree. From behind, someone praised the photo. From behind, a guy came up to Yue Bing. He thought that Yue Bing was not bad since he managed to take a picture of Junlin on the first day. This guy startled Yue Bing. He asked why the guy who entered didn't make a sound. It was his roommate. This guy's name is Shuda. He lives in the dormitory longer than anyone else. The guy is a real intellectual. After graduating from university in the vulgar life, he married a beautiful wife. Shuda was about to reveal information about Zhongling. After all, there were only 17 people gathering information about Zhongling. Among them, 7 were capable of striking up a conversation with her. And among 7 people, no one can get her phone number or email. Yue Bing was surprised that his neighbor had only just arrived and already managed to take away so much information. Shuda felt that Yue Bing needed to look forward to the future. At one moment, a book on the shelf caught the guy's attention. It was a martial arts manual. Shuda didn't expect Yue Bing to know Kung Fu. Yue Bing revealed that he used to be trained by his grandfather. When Yue Bing was going through his grandfather's things, he came across this book and took it with him. Shuda was glad to have this manual in his hands. He was going to read, and perhaps thus learn Kung Fu. Yue Bing took the book from Shuda with sadness in his voice. The introduced thought that it was all useless. After all, martial arts need to be trained with the body, and many guidelines are passed down from generation to generation and are hard to unlearn. Yue Bing knew from the Reformation romances that people could achieve great success by copying books and music. However, Yue Bing didn't really know what to do. He thus asked his late grandfather about it. Meanwhile, in the women's dorm room, someone was very angry and thought the new students were like savages. The angry girl's name was Jo Chi. She was angered with an axe in her hands that the prettiest of the new students was being harassed on her first day. Her friend felt that right now, they should focus on the current goal. After all, they shouldn't let Junlin feel resentful. The girl was shocked that it was only their school, and anything could happen in the future. Zhongling herself thought that it was better not to report to the police. Perhaps Yue Bing was just mistaken. However, Jo Chi thought that such a person should not be allowed to roam free. She was convinced that guys at that age only thought of one thing, and that was girls. However, Junlin noticed that when Yue Bing hugged her, it was very sincere. And even if he's a little darker than usual, he's not a bad guy. Her friend thought it was Stockholm Syndrome. Jo Chi also wanted to touch Zhongling, if that was all it was about. One of the girls asked if the others were free this weekend. Her classmate was organizing a meeting. She suggested we go to it. Meanwhile, Shuda was showing Yue Bing his computer. It was completely full of very dynamic movies. Shuda asked what genres Yue Bing wanted to watch. In all one-language school, no one had such a large collection of movies. Yue Bing replied that he was already grown up and told his friend to watch such a thing himself. Shuda added that he might have movies with an actress who looks like Junlin. He has several. Yue Bing's mood immediately changed. He gave his neighbor an email and asked him to send the movies to him. Shuda suggested to Yue Bing to go out this weekend because his school friend is throwing a party. Yue Bing said yes. Meanwhile, night had fallen. It was 3 in the morning. Yue Bing went to the dormitory's restroom. Yue Bing was not feeling well. He had run to the toilet 3 times this evening because the food Soida had given him had caused food poisoning. Yue Bing didn't take the toilet paper because he panicked. He took his grandfather's old allowance instead. Yue Bing's phone is lying beside the pillow and there is no way to call Shuda. Yue Bing's grandfather had spent a lot of effort to come up with instructions on the 7 forms of combat, but Yue Bing still decided to tear off 2 blank pages. Yue Bing apologized to his grandfather. Even though Chinese wrestling is dead, he promised to change that in the future. At this moment, strange sounds were heard. Someone shouted that Chinese Kungfu was not dead. Yue Bing was shocked. He didn't understand who was talking to him since he was the only one in the bathroom. At this moment, Yue Bing noticed something on the floor near his feet. Yue Bing saw blood dripping from his grandfather's allowance onto the floor. The voice said that there were some important things Yue Bing needed to listen to. The voice explained that a grandmaster can only live once, but martial arts live forever. The voice asked if Yue Bing wanted to become a grandmaster. The strange voice began to explain that there were 7 kinds of creatures born by nature. It was a dragon, a snake. The voice continued that the other creatures are the tiger cheetah and the elephant. And the two remaining creatures born of nature were the crane and the monkey. They are all beasts, 7 forms and millions of kinds of beasts. Meanwhile, Yue Bing was underwater. The voice asked Yue Bing if he wanted to learn the secrets to become a grand master of all 7 forms. Yue Bing didn't understand who was saying this, and whether he was asking if the guy wanted to become a great martial artist. Yue Bing had indeed been reborn. However, the wheel of fate had already begun to turn, changing its direction in this life. He must not be idle. The man who broke his arm is the Grappling King, and also the Chinese conglomerate, Hu Chou and the Mercenary. These are all enemies Yue Bing is about to face. If a guy wants to defeat these powerful enemies, he needs to get stronger. Yue Bing shouted that if by becoming a great master he got rid of the regret of his past life, then he was ready. The strange creature liked Yue Bing's answer, for it was without hesitation. It was the monkey suit that spoke. She invited Yue Bing to go through to the 7 forms of Forbidden Grounds. The monkey is the guardian of this place. Yue Bing didn't realize where he had gotten to, since he had only torn out 2 pages from the manual. He just needed some peace and quiet. Monkey was running around Yue Bing. She was very happy that she was finally able to meet the current owner of the management. Yue Bing tearfully replied that he wanted to learn martial arts. Monkey didn't like Yue Bing's behavior and slapped him. It still didn't get to the guy. Ben was just a warden. He had nothing to teach Yue Bing. The monkey showed the guy the prison cells around. The only people who could teach them anything to Yue Bing were the most famous figures in the history of the 7 Forms clan in the cells. They were called the 7 Sins, and each prison cell had a different hieroglyph on it. Ben begged to start with the one closest to the Yue Bing era, the great master of the crane style from the Ming dynasty. At the same moment, the crane style master's cell door was kicked open. Ben and Yue Bing were very surprised by this. The door flew behind their backs with great speed. Yue Bing understood that these doors weighed several hundred kilograms. He was surprised that it was a person who pushed them aside so easily. There was some non-human sound coming from the chamber. Yue Bing thought that what was happening was like art movies. Ben explained that masters can make specific sounds, internal and external sounds. The external sound comes from the movement of the hands and feet. Such a sound is called the roar of sinew and bone. The old man in the cell is just warming up because he's been restrained for too long. Yue Bing tensed up, no doubt. He was intimidated by the sounds coming out. A man appeared from the cell. He was very terrifying and looked more like a ferocious monster. In an instant, the shackles fell from his hands. He was finally free. In an instant, Yue Bing no longer saw the master. He had moved somewhere out of his sight with great speed. Yue Bing realized that this person's movements were simply too fast, and his eyes couldn't follow him. Master thought that Yue Bing was just a little kid who still had milk on his lips. Master was certain that scum like Yue Bing was definitely not worthy of learning the crane style. This person ran behind Yue Bing's back and thought that he should die in this prison. Master was going to use the crane-style killing technique. Yue Bing remembered how he used to think that the crane style was too boring. He asked his grandfather to teach him some fighting techniques. Grandfather believed that this was not the most important thing in battle. There was a 4th technique in leadership that only a great master could impart. This 4th technique is called assassination. It is used to kill people. Meanwhile, the crane-style master from behind ran at Yue Bing, about to finish him off. He was going to do it without spilling a drop of the enemy's blood using a special killing technique. Yue Bing had already imagined how he would be buried, and how his parents would mourn him. If Yue Bing was a split second slower, then his head would leave his body. All these things he sees in his head becoming reality. However, luckily for him, Ben came to the rescue in time and used the lightning strike technique. This technique amazed the master, and lightning bolts appeared all around. Yue Bing explained that the old man was just playing a prank on the guy. Yue Bing was shocked that it was the old man, because he was obviously trying to kill him. Master wouldn't teach Yue Bing even if he was tortured. He believed that all these techniques were either stolen or a false parody. Yue Bing stated that this martial art was taught to him by his grandfather. He was a follower of the crane technique. The master laughed. He thought it was truly one of the funniest jokes he'd ever heard. The master's name was Chu Yi Nao, and he was the last follower of the crane technique, a martial arts manual that had been thrown into the river. Yue Bing realized that Grandpa was not a follower of a 7-species martial arts master. Yue Bing didn't want to learn from the master anymore. He turned around and walked away. Ben tried to stop him because only Yue Bing could enter this place. Yue Bing said that after the defeat of Chinese martial arts, they were questioned. Right now, there are a bunch of foreign arts represented in mixed martial arts competitions, but no Chinese martial arts. Yue Bing reacted so emotionally to this that he cried. It really upsets him that everyone is saying that Chinese martial arts are dead and their masters are frauds. Chu Yi Nao had never heard of other martial arts. The world had changed since he left, and now there was an arena to showcase Chinese Kungfu. Master was convinced that the world had really changed. He wanted to ask Yue Bing something. Chu Yi Nao also cried. He asked if he passed the technique to Yue Bing, would he be able to show the power of Chinese martial arts on the world stage. Yue Bing was sure of it. He was going to beat them all up and talk to them with his fist. Chu Yi now said that he would wait for that day to see everything with his own eyes. Yue Bing and Ben Ben were already excited. They knew exactly what this meant. Master was still going to accept Yue Bing as a disciple. His teaching method was not for the faint of heart. Bin Bing was pleased. He offered to make the guys master and apprentice. Yue Bing was going to not disappoint Chu Yi now. The master was not clear about Yue Bin's background. However, his passion for Chinese martial arts shows that his character is not bad. Even Chu Yi now is not as passionate as Yue Bing. This seemed incredible to the master. However, the guys soon found out that Yue Bin wasn't really crying. He was using eye drops. Ben Ben and Chu Yi now were angry that Yue Bing had fooled them. Ben Ben tried to smooth things over. He said there was no need for formalities and you could start practicing right away. Yue Bing then began to learn martial arts. Time flows differently in the 7 forms of forbidden lands, and in the outside world. 1 day in this realm is 1 minute in the outside world. So even if it was only 1 night, Yue Bing had lived for 10 days in this area. The next day came. Shu Da was trying to wake Yue Bing up. After all, it was already noon, and if he didn't hurry up, all the delicious food in the dining hall would be eaten by others. Yue Bin replied that he was awake, but he might need some help to get to the dining room. Yue Bing balls exhausted after such hard training. Shu Da thought the guy had been watching adult movies with an actress similar to Jun Lin all night. Shu Da noticed that Yue Bing's hand wasn't so swollen yesterday. The guy wondered how his hands had gotten so rough overnight. Shu Da even thought that his arms might have gotten stronger because of watching adult movies. This made the guy laugh. On this day, something incredible happened in the canteen of Feicheng Language School. In all the years of operation, no one had ever done such a thing before. A student appeared who managed to eat 23 beds of Nova rice with egg. No one knows who it was. It was Yue Bing. Shu Da he had never seen someone who ate so much before. He asked if last night was good. Yue Bing said yes. The training methods of the great master of the crane technique were really cruel. If this continued, Yue Bing wouldn't be able to endure. At this moment, the guys heard someone cheering that Senior Hu Yao had come to the university today. Shu Da has heard this guy's name more than a few times during his time at the university. He has a good academic record and a family business. A group of girls surrounded Hu Yao. They admired him and were big fans of the guy. Yue Bing remembered that in his previous life, the guys were responsible for him breaking his arm, but in this life, he was completely different. Yue Bing was going to not let this event happen again. He was determined. Nowadays, the language school is rapidly developing, so it is very difficult to find a beautiful and quiet place in the middle of the city. Shu Da and Yue Bing came to Tutsheng Park, which was near the school. Shu Da liked to eat lunch and meditate there. Yue Bing thought about spring hovering around and about the beautiful girl in his arms. However, no matter how hard he tried, even after 4 years of college, he wouldn't have a girlfriend. The quiet park is only frequented by the elderly. Yue Bing thought he could come here in the mornings and practice, run and meditate. Now that Yue Bing thought about it, he found it very useful. Shu Da called out to his friend and asked him to look at something. In front of the guys was an old grandfather who practiced Tai Chi. However, that wasn't what Shu Da wanted to show him. Behind the old man was a beautiful girl. Shu Da wanted to show off her dazzling white legs. The guys didn't understand why someone like her was in this park. The girl noticed that she was being watched, and it seemed to be freshmen. The girl winked at Shu Da and sent him an air kiss. Shu Da was shocked at this kind of attention. Yue Bin explained that the girl was literally teasing the guy. At this time, her bag was next to the girl. Someone reached out and grabbed it. It looked like a robbery. The man grabbed the girl's bag and ran away. The girl screamed that the bag contained her wallet. She called for help. Yue Bing stood right in the path of the robber. Shu Da told Yue Bing to step aside. Shu Da was worried and shouted that this man was running straight at Yue Bing, and the guy was clearly no competition for him. The robber had a knife in his hand. He was going to stab Yue Bin, who wants to stop him. Yue Bing remembered training with the master. Chu Yi now had explained that Yue Bing could not perform the second method until he had fully mastered the previous method. The master added that he would like Yue Bing to use the method to build up his body mass for at least a year, so that he would lay a good foundation. During Yue Bin's childhood, his grandfather also always emphasized the importance of education and fundamentals. The knife-wielding robber flew straight at the guy. Yue Bing closed his eyes and concentrated. The boy remembered everything his master and grandfather had taught him. He was going to apply his techniques. At one moment, something strange happened. A bang was heard. The girl didn't realize what had happened. She turned around sharply to look at the mugger. But the robber was sealed into the wall. He was unconscious. No one realized what it was. The man had his teeth knocked out and was bleeding from the wear. He was punished for his actions. Yue Bing quickly went home. Shu Da noticed that that beautiful girl wanted to come over to thank him. But Yue Bing ran away. Shu Da knows that Yue Bin likes Junling, but he could have used this opportunity to meet the girl himself. Yue Bing already knew in his past life that he would not have relationships with girls in the future, and nothing would bud between a guy and this beauty. The girl's name was Manji. She's well off, and people can take things from her and she won't even notice. Her grandfather came to visit, and Manji said that she wasn't focused at that moment, and it won't happen again next time. The girl was angry because she wanted to sincerely thank Yue Bing, but he ran away. Manji thought that Yue Bin was just lucky and his opponent tripped over his own foot and Yue Bin could have been stabbed. Her grandfather explained that it was not luck. Yue Bing must have been a student of a prestigious martial arts school. After all, when ordinary people face an attack from the front, they retreat because of their subconscious. This will not only hinder the attack, but also make their center of gravity unstable. But Yue Bing accurately dodged his opponent's knife attack and rushed into the vacuum zone and turned it into a strong counterattack. People who can do such a thing must stand on their feet very steadily. Yue Bing's feet had grown like old trees into the ground. Manji was surprised because Yue Bin looked very thin but appeared strong. Grandpa explained that some people deliberately make themselves look weaker. Manji's third uncle asked her to come to one of his tournaments. For the past few years, he had been organizing boxing matches. Grandpa didn't think there was much money to be made from underground boxing matches. Of Grandpa's 3 sons, only the third one likes gambling the most, and it's sure to hurt him. Grandpa was tired of his son provoking him every time. Manji tried to calm the grandfather down because he was still young. Grandpa will always protect their family. Even if it is strong wind or rain with him, their family is invincible. Manji thought Yue Bin's bravery was just extravagant. She had to thank him. At that moment, Manji, along with her grandfather, approached the other costumed men who looked fierce. There were so many of them. They lined up in front of the limousine and all bowed their heads to Mr. Feye. The girl didn't understand how Yue Bing could be so strong. Meanwhile, underground fights were taking place. This place was called the Underground Tigers Club, and today, the queen of underground fights was performing. Dance. And if the girl wins today's game, the next game will be a title defense match, and if it is successful, she will receive a bonus of 100,000 units. The girl was determined. She only had 2 matches left. It was going to be over very quickly. Dance fought her opponent, his face contorted in pain. The girl used a chokehold. The girl believed that violence was always the most effective way to achieve the surrender of an opponent, first physically and then spiritually. Fang Tian slammed the ring a few times, which meant he was giving up. The girl was happy to win. She was dancing and had already won her 11th consecutive match. Boundless energy was hidden in her body. Dance did a few somersaults around the ring, with fans cheering her on. The girl believed that once the human spirit submits to violence, things like fear or cowardice, all weaknesses are revealed in human nature. In any case, the girl could not live without violence. The use of violence awakened courage in her. Dance did numerous backflips and stood on the edge of the ring with 1 foot. She assumed a graceful pose. Fans from the stands shouted Dance's name. She rejoiced in victory. The girl combined dance and violence. She looked forward. Meanwhile, Chu Yi Nao was explaining to Yue Bing that the crane fist was divided into 4 steps: learning, playing, fighting, and killing. And the beginning of each step of the fist contained a skill. This skill is called White Crane Spreading Wings. There is also a mysterious killing method. However, the master was not going to teach Yue Bing this. Yue Bing had heard that only a master of the killing method could become a grandmaster. He wanted to learn how to kill. Chu Yi Nao explained that the killing method was a supreme killing technique. He believed that one could not become a true master by possessing only this power. Chu Yi Nao continued that if Yue Bing wanted to become a master, he must find his own destiny, no matter if it violated the current laws. The master believed that in this era of bloodshed, there was no need to continue killing. Yue Bing wondered what it meant to seek his own destiny. He didn't quite understand what the teacher meant. So, it was time to start practicing the FA method. Master and Ben Ben looked intimidating. They said that Yue Bin was forbidden to die. Crane fighting has a certain style called a routine, and the practice is a set of many individual techniques. If Yue Bing wants to learn this method, he must first understand the routine. Yue Bing began to repeat the movements of the master who was showing him how to place his hands and feet. The guy should imagine that the enemy was in front of him and feel his movement. Time quickly flew by in the forbidden lands of the 7 martial art forms. 3 days had already passed. Yue Bing didn't expect to be so tired after doing the fixed movement routine exercise. However, after these days, he feels much stronger. Yue Bing noticed that the master didn't even break a sweat while training with him. Apparently, this is the gap between the guy and the guru. The master told the guy to diligently train further. Right now, Chu Yi Nao wants to teach Yue Bing the method, 1 crane soaring through the sky. Yue Bing explained that in his time it was called parkour. It's just that parkourists are more flexible than normal people. Master asked Yue Bing to let Yue Bing show him this method, and then the guy could decide if he wanted to learn it. The master disappeared in the blink of an eye. Yue Bing didn't even realize where he had gone. Chu Yi Nao was moving very fast. Simply at the speed of light, it was impossible to keep track of the advances. The master quickly ran along the walls. He had incredible speed and agility. In an instant, the master pushed himself off the ground and jumped high, showing the guy all his skills. Chu Yi now asked what Yue Bing thought about this technique now. Yue Bin thought that the master had the technique of Marvel superheroes, and it looks like a real version of Spider-Man. The master explained that a guy had to endure adversity if he wanted to learn this impressive skill. Ben tried to calm Yue Bin down. He told him to relax. The guy had a bad feeling. At the same moment, a loud scream was heard. The ordeal for Yue Bing was very hard. Yue Bing returned to the real world. At this time, Senior had already come to fetch Shu Da, and the latter had brought Yue Bing with him. The elder ordered Zhang Lina for the guys, however. There was only room for one. There was no room for Yue Bin. Turns out Senior bought this Zhang Lina with his own money earned from his part-time job. Shu Da thought it was admirable that the guy earned so much as a student. He asked what kind of job it was. The elder replied that Shu Da was not up to this job. He looked very arrogant. Yue Bing said that he would get there himself, and asked him to give him the address of the place. Shu Da replied that it was too far away. Yue Bin was about to run to the place the guy asked to call him when the guys got to that place. Looks like Yue Bing wasn't kidding. He rushed away from the guys. They didn't even have anything to say. This place is more than 10 kilometers away from them. The elder thought it was unusual. Shu Da thought that Yue Bing was joking. Zhou Qi waved her hand at the senior. Senior knew that the girls' middle school class was next to Shu Da's class. Shu Da's attention was caught by something. He was looking intently at the girl behind Zhou Ji. It was Jun Lin. She was considered this year's new beauty. The guy thought she was prettier in real life than in the photo. Yue Bing was standing on the roof of one of the buildings. He realized the direction of the address his friend had given him. At this time, on a city street, a boy asked his mom if superpowers existed. Mom said they didn't. She told her son not to watch action movies because they teach you how to jump from heights. From that day on, the boy's TV time is reduced to half an hour. Mom was already angry because her son wouldn't listen to her when she was having a serious conversation with him. The boy's attention was caught by something behind his mom's back. He looked at it with surprise. Yue Bin was there, jumping from one roof to another. The boy thought he was flying in the sky. Mom turned around, however, there was nothing behind her back. The boy said he wasn't lying. The mom got angry. She was going to slap the kid. The boy tried to justify himself. The boy thought that superheroes really exist and Yue Bin is one of them. At this time, Yue Bing swiftly reached the address that Shu Da had discounted to him. This entertainment club should be in Yue Bing's neighborhood. It was an unfamiliar place for a guy. Yue Bing thought that the most important thing was to enter first. The guy also needed to call his friend and tell him that he was already there. The older man didn't realize how he did it. At this time, the boys were on their way to their destination, and were only halfway there. Shu Da revealed that Yue Bing had already arrived, and he would wait for them outside the club first. The senior thought that Yue Bing was lying after all. It was impossible for a cab to arrive before they did. Junling was surprised that Shu Da's roommate Shu Da is Yue Bing. The guy asked what's the big deal. Junlin explained that she knows someone with the same name as Yue Bin, but it's probably all more of a coincidence. The girl added that it was just a childhood friend she was playing with at the time. She hadn't seen him in years. Shu Da explained that his neighbor might be different from what the girl expects. Shu Da suggested that the girl could talk to Yue Bing and get to know him better. Junlin didn't know what to answer. Memories from the past came flooding back at her. She recalled how, as children, she and Yue Bin had promised to go to a language university and realize their dreams. The girl realized that those promises shouldn't be taken seriously, and she should probably find a boyfriend already. After all, she doesn't even know where Yue Bin is now. Unfortunately, the girl thought she was stupid enough to keep her promise. Meanwhile, the guys had already arrived at the Tianchi Entertainment Club. It was a very decent place. Yue Bing noticed that this place was quite beautiful. He wondered how much it cost to spend the night here. Meanwhile, Boss Zhang, Hai Sani, and Dance were walking down the corridor. They were discussing how they were going to have fun next time. Yue Bing listened to their conversation with surprise. He didn't know these people. They were going to go to the villa on Beshui Mountain. It was quite an unimaginable place. The boss said Fei Lao might show up too. Hai Sani noticed that there was nothing to hide from the boss. He also said that Fei Lao is a pure child. They were discussing old man Fei Lao, and if someone good at literature, calligraphy, or painting it is worthwhile to be interested in him. Meanwhile, Yue Bin's phone rang. It seems his friends had reached the club. Yue Bing reached into his pocket for his phone but dropped it, the phone flying to the ground. Yue Bin bought this phone just recently for summer practice, and if it breaks, the guy will die. However, at that moment, someone picked up the phone. This person was very agile. Looks like it was Dance. She luckily caught the phone. The phone was already near the ground. She deftly picked it up. Everyone was shocked by it. Yue Bing noticed the girl's amazing agility, because she was standing behind 3 people, including Yue Bing. And it was the fastest reaction. Dance gave Yue Bin and his phone to Yue Bin. He thanked the girl. Boss Zhang was not surprised. He had expected such a reaction from Xiao Wu. He felt that it was very professional. The girl had bandages on her arms and a tracksuit. She looked like an athlete, a fighter. Yue Bing wondered for a second which one of them was stronger. He was very interested in this. Boss Zheng heard that the girl is participating in the defense of the championship lead in a month. He asked if she knew who her opponent was. Xiao Wu thought it didn't matter who the opponent was. Hai Sani asked if she was ready. The dance was ready. No matter who her opponent was, the girl was going to overpower him. Yue Bin's friends were already parking. They should be at the club any minute now. The guy wanted to go to the restroom. At a neighboring table, President Ma was loudly shouting that their penguin game should represent something more weighty. Yue Bin thought about the penguin's journey and President Ma. Yue Bing couldn't believe that this was familiar company. The guy felt awkward. President Ma was the founder and CEO of Penguin Maloney. He will run China's social entertainment industry in the future. The presidential aide explained that the Chinese industry is now dominated by Desheng, and there has not been a single heavyweight product in 5 years. President Ma asked if they don't get agency rights for the 2 Southern Dynasty matches. They are supposed to be open to testing after all. The assistant explained that other companies are developing quality games in the same way, and he is optimistic about the future of both of these companies. President Ma wondered if their company couldn't produce masterpieces that could combat these games. The president really wanted someone to explain what the future holds for him. Yue Bin said that there are 2 game presentations ahead of this company. Everyone was surprised. The presidential aide was angry that the boy had overheard their conversation. President Ma told him to let him finish talking. Yue Bin started to tell that one of the games has the best anti-terrorist story, and the convenience of this game is provided by one device. And the other game has good taste, a rich program and skills. He also added that if they come across a League of Legends game, they should definitely buy it with the developer company. Yue Bin explained which companies President Ma should follow. Yue Bin explained what the future holds. It was a great plan that the president had been thinking about for years. He felt that Yue Bin had the same ideas as him. Yue Bin advised President Ma to keep it up and then he will be recognized. Yue Bing believed that the mission of the president was to create happiness from the heart. The president even cried. Meanwhile, the guys had already arrived at the club. The senior asked where Yue Bing was. Shuda was going to text him. Junlin told the guys she was going to the restroom and told them to go pack the first box. The girls thought it was weird that Junlin's phone was ringing non-stop. They thought she had a boyfriend. The older man confirmed their speculation. He said he had seen it with his own eyes. The guys were shocked that Junlin had a boyfriend. If anyone knew about it, her popularity would drop. The girl on the phone said that she only has a couple of classmates with her. She will be careful and cautious. Junlin was already angry. She thought that whoever was calling her couldn't pick her up. She told him to just leave. Junlin didn't want anyone to know about this man's attitude towards her. Junlin hung up the phone. She heard someone worrying about how his hair was lying. It was Yue Bing. He knew beforehand that Junlin would be at this meeting, so he bought hair gel. Junlin thought that Yue Bin was following her, but that's a crime. The girl thought she'd better leave and find her classmates, at which point she crashed into someone. Loud shouts were heard. Someone was indignant that Junlin had soiled his shirt. Apparently it was very expensive. Yue Bing heard these arguments. He realized that there was someone outside arguing. Junlin paid the man $100 for the shirt, however. He claimed it was worth much more than that. The man told them to go to their room and spend the night with his brothers and thus offset the cost of the shirt. The girl stated that it wasn't an authentic shirt, so 100 yuan would be enough. Junlin talked about the differences between the man's shirt and the original shirt. The man's friend laughed that his shirt was fake. Wei Xiao was very angry with Zhongling. He reached out to her and felt that she should accompany him today. However, something stopped the man. It was as if there was a dark, disturbing energy around Junlin. The boys were surprised. They didn't expect to see something so frightening. A cold and determined aura appeared behind her back. Goosebumps ran down the backs of those men. Yue Bing appeared behind Junlin's back. He told him not to touch the girl. Junlin remembered the episodes of her childhood. Someone laughing because of her playing with Yue Bin every day. Junling was crying bitterly, and the guys were laughing and didn't understand why Yue Bin wasn't coming to save her. The guys were going to cut the girl's hair off and take her heart. However, at this moment, Yue Bing appeared. He shouted loudly and stopped the guys. He told her not to touch her, and introduced himself as the heir to the family of a uniformed fist. Junlin was surprised that this situation reminded her a lot of an episode from her childhood, but this person would be like an African with a British accent. Yue Bing at this moment smiled at Junlin and said hello to her. Junlin was upset that it was Yue Bin who was saving her. She thought she had gotten into the wolf's den and then came to the tiger's den. However, at some point, Yue Bing didn't seem so creepy to her. Da Junling began to realize that it was the same Yue Bing in front of her. Yue Bin said that he still remembered Junlin's name, just like she told him as a child. Tears came to her eyes. She still couldn't fully believe what was happening. Yue Bing walked up to the man closely. He was going to make him pay double. In her past life, Junlin met Yue Bin in the dining hall. They haven't seen each other since the first day of class. Probably because Yue Bin plays games all the time. In fact, the girl wanted to ask Yue Bin if he was still boxing. Yue Bin explained that he had stopped his practice because he saw no future, and now he just wanted to find a good job. Junling remembered Yue Bing's disappointment well that very day. The girl felt sorry for him. However, obviously Yue Bing didn't give up. After all, they had promised each other. However, in this life the situation is completely different, and Yue Bin has also changed. Junlin finally realized that Yue Bin was the same boy from her childhood. She clung to him. Junlin was very happy that they had met. She noticed that Yue Bin had matured and also continued practicing martial arts. Yue Bing also thought that Junlin had grown up. He was also happy about the situation. The guys went back to their friends. They were all in shock and didn't understand what had happened. Shu Da asked with a surprised face what happened in the restroom. They were surprised to see Junlin walking hand in hand with Yue Bin. The guys didn't understand what Yue Bin was doing to please her so much. One of the girls asked if Yue Bin was Junlin's lover or if it was just a coincidence. Junlin explained that she hadn't seen Yue Bin in over 7 years and didn't immediately recognize him. One of the girls said that she had heard something from Junlin on the first day of school, and the rumors spread quickly. Shu Da was very upset. He believed that Yue Bing was an honest man with big eyes. He said that they were no longer friends. While Yue Bin was gone, Senior had said something about Yue Bin to the other guys. It affected their attitudes towards him. All the boys were surprised at what the older man had told them. They couldn't believe it. In elementary school, Senior had known her, and Junlin had been too close to one man. And this man wore a wedding ring, so their relationship is not so simple. Shu Da felt that Yue Bing should be careful in the future. Yue Bing didn't understand what was going on. Yue Bing for noticing the wine on their table. The guys didn't realize where the other people had disappeared to. Yue Bing realized that something was wrong here. The guy felt that they should leave. At this point, there were a lot of men approaching the guys. They were clearly not friendly. One of them said it didn't matter if they wanted to leave. The man had a cigarette in his teeth. He said the guys have to pay for the drinks first. The elder has paid his share. There is 50,000 left, and each must pay 10,000. Yue Bing realized that this senior was working as a wine hunter. The guy wasn't going to panic. It's a secret night fishing. Hunters demand to pay for other people for all the fun, end up splitting the income. Sometimes things don't go well and they bring in their acquaintances, then try to make amends. Yue Bing immediately thought it was strange that a young student could afford to buy such an expensive Junlina. Now Yue Bing understood why Shu Da had acted like this in his past life. Back then, he was also asked to come to the organization. However, Yue Bing was very much attached to computer games and didn't go with his friend at that time. After that, Shu Da went to this party alone without Yue Bing. The guy came back the next morning and was not himself. When Yue Bing was sleeping, he heard sobbing. Now he thinks he didn't think he was imagining it. Indeed, Shu Da lay sobbing all night in his bed and over the situation. After that, Shu Da became depressed. He didn't say anything about that night. And for a year, he only ate instant noodles. The guy couldn't stand it and ended up in the hospital. He had a stomach ulcer from eating the noodles. That fierce man guessed that the guys were from Faching faculty. He demanded to give him the money. Zhu Qi shouted that the man was a criminal and was going to call the police. However, Yue Bing said it was pointless because they had 2 menus of low and high prices. Besides, even if the bottle contains fake wine, it is enough that the bottle is original and it will already be expensive. Yue Bing realized that they had planned all the workshops, and there was only one way out of this situation. The solution was why they would be killed. However, the boy's legs were trembling and he couldn't take a step because of fear. Zhu Qi thought the guy was pathetic. She didn't understand why she liked a man like him. It looked like the guys knew each other. The girl realized he hadn't changed at all. Their ringleader was going to explain a few things to Yue Bin before he died. There are 3 big gangs in Faicheng among them. The Lion Club is the most influential, and its founder is the old man Fei Lao. Yue Bing asked how old he was, noting that it turns out elderly patients with secondary disease do exist. This club has many industries in the city, including real estate restaurants, underground casino clubs, and so on. This club was run by San Yi Chao. Rumor has it that Sang Yi Chao has bullet marks on his back, and it is said that it was 20 years ago he blocked 3 bullets that flew at Fei Lao. So if the guys don't pay today, San and Chiao and Fei Lao will be affected. Zhu Qi stated that some of them were simple students who were unable to pay huge sums of money. The man explained that they have an installment plan. They will pay that amount in a year or 2, they just need to sign a paper. Junlin asked them to wait for a moment. The girl actually had money. The man told people who could pay to approach him and the rest to take a step back. Junlin was going to help her classmates pay for everything since her expenses for this month had already arrived. Yue Bing was shocked that she has given 50,000 yuan for expenses. He only gets 1,000 a month. Junlin stated that the bank card was in her bag. She asked for a moment. Junlin was surprised to notice that she didn't have her bag in her hands. It had been left in the break room. The girl wondered what she should do in such a situation. She turned to Mr. Villain, explained that her purse was in the room and asked him to go get it. The guys thought they were all going to die, because Junlin literally addressed this man as a villain. The man got angry and thought Junlin had fooled him. At that moment, the assistant told the manager that one was missing. They noticed that the bespectacled man who was standing behind the guys had disappeared. The manager told them to find him. Juchi wasn't surprised that Shuda was missing. Outwardly, he might have changed, but inside he was still the same. The men started searching. Suddenly, one of them found something. There was a hole in the wall, with shoes lying next to it. They realized that the guy had fled through this opening. This situation made the manager laugh a lot. He didn't expect that Shuda could get through there. He had never seen such a thing. However, these shoes were just a decoy. Shuda was actually hiding in a box nearby. The manager was going to look for the guy. Shuda thought that when things calmed down, he could escape. He realized that it wasn't wrong, but was very afraid. The guy had read that ordinary people could do nothing against bad and powerful people, let alone even the real underground life in the Lions Clubs. The manager thought Yue Bing was stupid after all. This is a student friendship that isn't even one. Yue Bing told the man not to say that after all. His friend couldn't just run away. Juchi tried to object to Yue Bing. Yue Bing stated that Shuda had most likely just drank fake wine and was now squatting in the restroom spitting it back out. Shuda heard all of this, however. He definitely escaped. The guy was shaking with fear. Yue Bing thought that maybe his friend had been attracted to an attractive passerby, so he should call first. These all words made Shuda angry. He wanted Yue Bing to shut up and stop making excuses for him. Yue Bing wasn't going to stop. He assumed that Shuda was currently talking to his mom via video link at the nearest internet cafe. This made Shuda even more angry. He realized how wrong he was doing. The guy didn't want Yue Bing to think that he had gotten to know him in these few days. He thought that Yue Bing didn't understand him. One of the men thought Yue Bing was talking too much. He swung a bat at him. All the guys were in shock. They looked on in amazement at what was happening. However, Yue Bing was calm. He had something else he was going to tell the men. Yue Bing believed that Shuda would never leave his friend and run away. He was looking forward to his return. Shuda was very moved by Yue Bing's words. He thought he was an idiot, and he himself cried bitterly. Shuda thought that he was very afraid of death. But after Yue Bing's words, his body instantly rushed forward. The guy abruptly jumped out of the box and shouted that he was back. At that moment, there was a blow with a stick. There was blood on her. Shuda started to remember events from the past. Someone approached the guy on a rainy day. This person remembered the guy. It was little Juchi. She asked if the guy was being bullied. Shuda replied that his friends were just joking around like that at him, and they would definitely come back. Turns out the guy had been bike locked. Juchi was going to tell the teacher about it. However, Shuda didn't reply anything. The girl was about to go home. Juchi said that when the hands are clenched into a fist, they become a weapon against violence. She hoped the guy wouldn't lose them. The next day, Shuda continued to be bullied by boys in his class and extorted money. Shuda replied that he didn't have any money, after all. He had bought the book, and it was better for the guys to ask others. One of the guys looked Astarshi. He asked if they weren't friends and got really pissed off. Shuda remembered the words that a hand clenched into a fist was a weapon against violence and clenched his fist himself. His classmate laughed at the kid. He slammed his head against the desk. Shuda cried and didn't know how he could resist this violence. The guy believed that his hands still couldn't become weapons. They were only tools to please violence. At this moment, Juchi and her friend walked past the classroom. They saw everything. Juchi thought Shuda was a coward after all. He couldn't say anything to those guys. A little later, Juchi received a love letter, however. There was no name on it. Juchi realized that it was a letter from Shuda. She looked at him judgmentally. After that, the girl tore up the love letter right in front of Shuda's eyes. Juchi didn't care who the letter was from, after all. A man who doesn't dare to write his name must be a coward. Currently, Juchi was very surprised that Shuda had come out of his hiding place and set himself up for a strike. Shuda was already thinking that he had lost his mind, however he was going to confront these men. Shuda shouted that Yue Bing should get behind him, and if the men wanted to fight, they should start with him. Yue Bing came here with the guy to strengthen their friendship, and he took a step he hadn't taken in his past life. Yue Bing thought that Shuda needed to rest. He slapped his neck to make him pass out. Yue Bing asked Junlin to take the guy to the hospital. The girl was worried about Yue Bing himself. Yue Bing grabbed his t-shirt. He was determined. The guy ripped his shirt. He told me to leave these men to him. He wanted to solve the problem. The girls listened to Yue Bing. They took Shuda under their arms and led him to the hospital. Junlin was worried about Yue Bing because even if he practiced martial arts, he still had to be careful. What caught Junling's attention were Yue Bing's muscles. They shone under the moonlight. Junling even drooled. She got embarrassed and noticed how Yue Bing had grown up. The men didn't waste any time either. One of them shouted to stop Yue Bing. Yue Bing wasn't going to listen to this. He approached the man at the speed of light and punched him in the face with his fist. The man immediately blacked out. He flew far away from Yue Bing. At that moment, another man decided to compete with the guy. He approached him from behind and was about to strike him. However, Yue Bing would be faster. He turned around sharply and jumped, avoiding the blow. Following that, Yue Bing punched the man in the jaw, several teeth flying out. After that, he stamped the man's head into the ground with tremendous force. However, his reprisal didn't end there. Yue Bing kicked the man in the stomach. The man flew far away. It looked like all of his opponents had been defeated. Zhongling had put her friends with Shuda in the ambulance. She was now going to return to Yue Bing. The girl ran with all her legs. She hoped Yue Bing was all right. She knew he still dreamed of becoming a martial arts master. But this was unfathomable. Zhongling cried in despair. She ran and hoped that Yue Bing would wait for her. When the girl approached the scene, she heard loud screams. She didn't immediately realize what had happened. Junlin was out of breath. She stopped for a second before entering the backyard of the club. Junlin was shocked at what she saw. The girl was stunned. In front of her stood Yue Bing, whole and unharmed, with the bodies of battered enemies lying around. Yue Bing looked very formidable. He had single-handedly massacred all of them. Meanwhile, the club manager called someone and said they had been attacked, and it was a strong practice. He called Sang Ye. He asked if the little dancer was with him and asked her to defeat Yue Bing. Yue Bing noticed that someone was missing. He suspected where that person was hiding. Sang Ye heard shouting into the tube. It seems the man was also dealt with by Yue Bing. Sang Ye thought that unfortunately, people always die. The man told Dance to check everything out, and as a prize he would add another 50,000 to her. Dance replied that she could go check it out, but told her not to forget that for her, a man was only a partner. At that moment, someone knocked on the door that led to the backyard. It was the blonde-haired guy. Yue Bing abruptly opened the door so that the guy almost fell down. The boy thought it was the older man. However, he realized with surprise that it wasn't him. Yue Bing told this guy to come over and take off his shirt if he didn't want a picture of him getting beaten up to go viral on the internet. At this moment, the screams of this guy were heard. It seems Yue Bing had beaten him up as well. Yue Bing took Junlin's hand. They were about to leave. However, one man woke up. He was holding a knife and was going to kill Yue Bing. At that moment, someone quickly approached him. The man didn't even have time to notice anything. Someone kicked a man in the face, a boot mark imprinted in his face. It was Junlin. She wanted her and Yue Bing to finally be left alone. Yue Bing didn't even realize what had happened or what that sound was. Junling pretended that nothing happened. Yue Bing was afraid that the people from the Lion Club would soon pass through here. He took Junling in his arms. Junlin stammered. She didn't understand what he did that for. Yue Bing explained that the girl was too slow. He told her to hold on tight. Loud screams could be heard in the back of the club. Someone was begging for help. Tans had already arrived on the scene. She was very struck by this picture. 6 adult experienced fighters were defeated. The girl couldn't believe they were beaten by one man. At that moment, Dance heard someone asking to save him, the sounds coming from around the corner. Tans was wary. She didn't fully understand what had happened here. It was the same guy Yue Bing had dealt with. He was sealed into the wall. The manager noticed Dance. He told them that they were beaten by Yue Bing and he couldn't get far. The men believed that they couldn't forgive Yue Bing, and the girl should avenge them. Dance replied that she was a boxer, not Sang Ye's dog. She didn't like this attitude. The manager gave the girl 2 coupons for food and told her that Yue Bing was very tan, so she wouldn't make a mistake. Meanwhile, the boys had already arrived at Faicheng Language University. Junlin called the hospital to see how Shuda was doing. She was told that nothing adorns his life. The hospital told her that Junlin should rest today. The girl hung up the phone and said thank you. Junlin explained that his friend was fine. Meanwhile, they had already reached the girl's dormitory. Yue Bing explained that the front door was already locked. Junlin remembered that the entrance to the dormitory closes at 12 o'clock. The girl thought the only option was to stay in a hotel. Yue Bing immediately became embarrassed upon hearing this sentence from Junlin. Yue Bing thought that this was very similar to cliched romance novels. He was glad that he would stay with the girl for a whole night. However, Yue Bing didn't have any money at all to pay for a hotel room. The guy's only option was to stay at Tucheng Park. Junlin noticed that the scenery here was beautiful. This night, the guys sat on the bench and talked a lot. They caught up on what they had missed in 4 years. Junlin noticed that Yue Bing had changed a lot. For a second, she thought she was dreaming. The girl noticed that Yue Bing had become tall and darkened a lot and also seemed more mature. Junlin thought that when Yue Bing talked about martial arts, he seemed cheerful, just like when he was a kid. Yue Bing smiled at the girl and said her name. He stared at her intently. Junlin was embarrassed by her own words. She had said everything she thought. Yue Bing said that she wants to open a martial arts hall in the future, and will take students. Yue Bing knew that there were very many shining schools under this illustrious starry sky. Yue Bing was going to create Xingyuan, the strongest martial art one day. His master heard all those words. He was surprised at such a determined attitude of his student. Junlin noticed that she still didn't have Yue Bing's contacts. They were going to exchange them. Yue Bin gave the girl a phone to enter her details. Junling asked if he was afraid to show his chats. Junlin tried to find a communication app on Yue Bin's phone. At that moment, the girl saw their correspondence with Shuda. There, the guy wrote that the actress in the movie looks like Junlin. Junlin was surprised that they mentioned her in their correspondence, and even chatted about the movie character. Junlin looked at the picture of this actress. She recognized her, however, other than hair color and height, they had nothing in common. However, here Junlin thought that a work of art cannot be evaluated superficially. Perhaps Yue Bing thinks that they are similar. It seemed to the girl that Yue Bing imagined that this role was played by her. However, Junling then pushed all these thoughts away. Yue Bing wanted to hug her shoulder at this moment. At this moment, Junlin abruptly jerked her hand and struck the tree that was growing next to them. Yue Bing didn't understand what happened and why the tree broke. The girl tried to pretend that nothing had happened. Junlin managed to fake it in time, because her image is that of a pure, innocent, silly, and sweet girl. Junlin didn't understand what emotions she should have right now. She wanted to show off her acting skills. Junlin asked how it was possible to watch such strange movies and imagine her as the heroine. Yue Bing said that he was going to explain everything, however. Junlin was unwavering. The next few hours, Zhongling gave moral lessons. Morning came. Two people were chatting nearby. The girl bought 2 cups of milk tea. It seemed to be Junlin's acquaintances. One of the girls was very nervous that Junlin still hadn't arrived. This girl had been here all night. Her friend had told her to sit down and rest. The pigtailed girl noticed Junlin coming. She was very excited. The other girl was so stunned that she even dropped her glasses. This girl played up the price and started telling me how she had been worried for a long time, and that if something happened to her, she wouldn't survive it. However, Junlin wasn't alone. The girl was curious who this guy next to her was. She was already angry that the guys had spent the night together. The girl couldn't accept it. She didn't know her sister was already running around on men. She didn't know what she should do, or if she should be angry with her sister. It turns out it was model Ding Tsaier, and a crowd of fans immediately ran up to her. Yue Bing noticed that it looked like a celebrity had come to visit him at the university. Junling tried to get out of there quickly. At this time, Ding shouted loudly for Junlin to stop and wait for her. It turns out Junlin was Ding Tsai's younger sister. Fans felt that if they got closer to Junlin, they would get closer to the model. The entire crowd of fans ran after Junlin. The guys at this time were trying to run away from them. That was why Junlin didn't want others to know about their relationship with her sister. The boys were finally able to break away. They were really out of breath while they were running. Yue Bin and Junlin ran to the rooftop. Here fans shouldn't be able to find them. Ditsai and her friend also escaped from the fans to the rooftop. The girl thought being a celebrity was a real headache. Yue Bing recognized her. She used to be the person who incited others to bully Junlin. If Yue Bing remembers correctly, this girl isn't an ordinary master, and there's nothing good about her appearance. Ding Kai told Yue Bing to stay away from her beautiful sister because he didn't deserve her. Junlin apologized to Yue Bin for her sister's defiant nature and for saying nasty things. Ding Kai yelled at Yue Bing and told him not to touch her sister. Yue Bing wouldn't think of falling for this girl's provocations. After all, he was already an adult. Junlin said that Ding Tsai's family sheltered her, so they have different last names. The other kids bullied Junlin because they thought she was an orphan. When Yue Bing was a child, he wasn't interested in such things, but now he was curious about Junlin's story. Junlin revealed that she doesn't know her biological parents, because her adoptive parents don't want to talk about it. Junlin wanted them to know her when she becomes a celebrity. Yue Bin finally realized why Junlin wanted to become a famous star. If Yue Bing had found out earlier, the tragedy wouldn't have happened either. Yue Bing was going to prevent the girl from becoming a celebrity. However, Yue Bin can't just take her personal life and interfere because that would be too cruel. The military training started from this day. Yue Bin needs to approach the first corps by 9 o'clock. The weather outside was nice. It was a clear day. There were kids walking around near the campus, all minding their own business. Dance arrived at this legendary university. She thought that if she hadn't decided to fight, she would have attended the university. The girl apologized to teacher Xiaoling for not living up to his expectations. Dance had a goal to find Yue Bing. All she knew was that he was very swarthy. An African guy walked past her. She thought he fit the description very well. Dance looked into this guy's eyes. She asked if he was Yue Bin. The guy didn't know Chinese. He spoke English. He smiled at the girl. At this time, Dance and her victim arrived at the Tianchi Club. The manager was there with his men. They were clearly not happy about what was going on. The guy was a prince of a kingdom. He asked to be released and said they could have his money. The club manager said they wouldn't touch the lad. If they continued, it would escalate into an international scandal. The manager gave Dance coupons for food for a whole year. The girl was very excited. They were coupons to an upscale restaurant that Dance had never gone to. Meanwhile, in Feijiao, military training was underway in the Lushan military district. Shuda, along with Yue Bing, went there. They saw a real tank. In fact, Shuda was a real fan of machinery. At that moment, someone approached the guys and noticed that Shuda was very interested in military equipment. Yue Bing recognized the guys. They were the other two participants of the games from the next room. One guy's name was Yugen. He was the second oldest in their company, nicknamed Lord. The second guy's name was Zhang Meng. He was born in the countryside, but he was very strong from birth. He was only 16 years old. Yue Bing was very happy to see the guys. He couldn't help himself and ran to hug them. Because of Yue Bing's strange expression, the guys misunderstood him. The guy even cried. The guys doubted that Yue Bing wasn't gay. They were scared out of their wits. After that, the rigorous training began. All the guys lined up in a row. After a month of training, Yue Bing's physical data improved, and also everyone became swarthy. To visit Yue Bing, Jun Ling came to visit him. She called out to him. Yue Bing said that during their military training, they didn't have a chance to meet. Jun Lin was very surprised at what she saw. Yue Bing had changed a lot. The girl's nose even bled. She thought she would even die from blood loss. Since Yue Bing had gotten a lot of sunburn over the vacation, it seems he had developed antibodies to UV rays. After the military training, Yue Bing received a call from his father. The man hadn't done that in a long time. Yue Bing's father asked his son to listen to the noise of the city today. Yue Bing realized that it was just the wind. The man was on the tallest office building in the city. Yue Bing's aunt wanted to introduce him to a nice girl, and if Yue Bing refused, his father would jump from there. Yue Bing said he couldn't go. The man continued to blackmail his son. Yue Bing said he had no money and would only talk if the man left him money. The man pretended that his number was out of range, but Yue Bing understood. Yue Bing realized that asking his father for money was useless, and he needed to find a solution himself. Meanwhile, the action was taking place at Maorong Private High School. There was a physical education class, and the teacher told the students to make sure to do stretching after class. And that was the end of the gym class. The teacher was a young girl. The teacher's name was Wu, and a little girl ran up to her. She had something she wanted to show Teacher Wu, the girl stammered. It turned out to be a drawing of a girl together with Teacher Wu. The teacher liked the drawing very much, praised the girl, and said that she would become an artist in the future. The girl was very excited. She smiled widely and said she would try her best. At that moment, a soccer ball was flying straight toward the teacher with the child. The teacher reacted quickly and kicked him away with her foot with great force. The shot was so hard that he punched the ball and left a big hole in it. The teacher became embarrassed that she had miscalculated the force. She wasn't going to ruin the ball. A father with a child came up to her at once. It turns out it was a ball from the World Cup. It was very expensive. The man started screaming. He was going to call his superiors and complain about the teacher. Teachers passed by who didn't treat Teacher Wu very well, for she only had a middle school education. A little later, Teacher Wu was called in by the vice principal to talk about what had happened. Teacher Wu tensed up. She realized that there was about to be an unpleasant conversation. It was rumored that the girl got the job thanks to the deputy director, and he often calls her to him. Other teachers thought that was the reason she was quietly crossing parents of students. At this moment, Yue Bing came over to the girls. He was looking for Teacher Wu. He was told that she had gone to the vice principal's office. Yue Bing smiled and thanked the other female teachers for the information. One of the teachers thought it was funny that the other sent the guy to the deputy's office. The teacher had a plan for them to be seen doing shameful things in the classroom. Yue Bing walked down the corridor and looked for the vice principal's office. Teacher is the girl Yue Bing's father tried to set him up with. The father was told that this girl grew up to be a real beauty. The man thought their children would be very beautiful. Yue Bing was surprised that his father even mentioned future children. Yue Bing found the deputy's office. He heard shouting from the office, the deputy asking what Teacher Wu had done and why she had insulted the students' parents again. These people are sponsors of their school, and even the principal has to respect them. The deputy was called and told to fire Teacher Wu, but he said that if she agreed to his proposal, no one would touch her. The girl was to come to dinner and bring expensive wine there. He told Wu to sit on his lap. Teacher Wu replied that she didn't have time for that. She was busy tomorrow. The girl was about to leave. The deputy director screamed. He told her to stop and insulted the girl. The deputy said the girl only got the job because of him and she wouldn't have a future without his help. The deputy said the teacher's younger brother is in jail right now and the girl should think about him. The deputy also knew that she was involved in underground fighting after work, and it was against school rules. The deputy knew she needed the money. As long as she obeyed him, no one would know about her extra work. The man looked creepy. He told Xiao Wu to follow his instruction and not to worry about being found out. The deputy was willing to cover all her expenses so she wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. He said otherwise the teacher would lose his job. He said he would be gentle with the girl. At this moment, someone wanted to hit the deputy director of the cream in the face. A fist appeared in front of his eyes. Turns out it was Yue Bing. He walked into the office and almost punched the man in the jaw. Yue Bing said that if his fist hit the man, he would lose a few teeth. The deputy director was indeed very frightened. He almost fainted. Yue Bing told Teacher Wu to go with him. The girl didn't even realize who this guy was. The teacher realized that Yue Bing was the guy she wanted to be introduced to. Actually, Yue Bing is not the first guy she's introduced to. They were all older and more successful. Yue Bin is the first one so young. All the men before were scared and ran away because the girl told them that her younger brother was in jail. Yue Bing thought that these men were scared of the girl's brother, and he didn't even feel like coming on a date. Yue Bing said not to take this date seriously. Teacher Wu didn't plan to look for a boyfriend herself. The guys already needed to go about their business. The girl thanked Yue Bing. The moment the guy was leaving, he was approached by Master Crane via telepathic communication. Master said that Yue Bing had been his only disciple for a long time, and so he had an assignment. Master wants Wu to be his apprentice. In fact, Yue Bin will be her teacher. Yue Bing was shocked. He felt that this was all too sudden. Yue Bing turned around and asked the teacher to wait. He invited her to the tea restaurant. Yue Bin said that they made a pretty good omelet there and suggested she go. Teacher Wu wanted to refuse, but her mouth was drooling. Finally, Yue Bing talked her into it. The guys came to a famous Hong Kong-style tea restaurant. Yue Bing finally realized why men were running away from Wu on the first date. Turns out it was because they were afraid they would go bankrupt. The girl ate out a lot. Wu was finally full. She gorged herself on several plates of noodles. She hadn't eaten heartily in a long time. Yue Bing finally decided to cut to the chase. He asked if the girl was doing goshu. Teacher Wu didn't know what it was. She asked if it could be eaten. Turns out goshu is China's national martial art, created to strengthen the country and the army. The girl has never been versed in martial arts, but she relies on her instincts in actual combat. At this moment, Teacher Wu glanced at the cake at a neighboring table. Yue Bing asked if his girlfriend wanted it, but she refused. But it was already clear from Teacher Wu. She was drooling again at the sight of the food. Yue Bing had already ordered her a cake. The girl cut off a piece of it. Teacher Wu was very happy because she liked the cake. It was delicious. Yue Bing realized that when he returned to the university, he wouldn't have a penny. Yue Bin said that he is a martial arts practitioner and thinks the girl has great talent, so he wants to take her on as a student. Teacher Wu asked what the guy's combat level was. The world has a ranking system based on fighters' accomplishments. In his past life, he was a city-level fighter. But now the guy is not officially registered, and so he didn't fight. He doesn't have a level. Teacher Wu was going to think about Yue Bin's proposal, but she can't promise him anything since she's a city-level fighter. This night, Yue Bing came to the Forbidden Land of 7 Forms to discuss everything. Master Crane was upset that Yue Bing couldn't persuade her to become a disciple, and he would be practicing all night tonight. Yue Bing thought that it was hard to find good disciples, but he would definitely find disciples next time. Master wanted her to be the one to be his disciple. Yue Bing didn't understand why that was so. The master turned around and walked away. Yue Bing shouted and asked him to wait. Master turned around and looked at Yue Bing. He asked what happened. Yue Bin promised that the girl will definitely become his apprentice, and she will definitely agree. Yue Bin will do so in exchange for learning how to kill him. Meanwhile, the Forbidden Land of 7 Shapes guys were all arguing. Master was angry that Yue Bing wanted to learn how to kill. He wasn't going to teach it. The master knew that Yue Bing considered himself strong, and therefore wanted to learn how to kill. But the abilities were beyond human capabilities. Not even the strongest of bodies can withstand such a load once he himself lost. Yue Bing was surprised that there was someone who was stronger than a master. The master explained that this man must be dead by now. Gone many years, he was not from China. This man was a samurai who was overseeing the invasion of troops on the mainland. The method of killing the master had failed because of him. Yue Bing had heard of the famous Kendo sect in Japan. Yue Bing was surprised that Master Crane had lost to such a person. Ben noticed that the master sighs every time he mentions it and starts acting weird. Apparently the master cannot untie this knot of fate and reincarnate, so he exists only here. Ben remembered that Yue Bing still hadn't received the rookie gift set. Ben gave Yue Bin the treasure map. It was not well drawn. Yue Bin was surprised. This map was drawn by a master. Yue Bing immediately started sucking up and saying that it was a true masterpiece. Master told Yue Bin not to talk. He thought that he should study literature, not just martial arts. Practicing in the forbidden lands of the 7 forms consumes much more energy. Without money, Yue Bing would starve. The master said that there is a tree near the west wall and a treasure box buried near it. The tree always blooms with pink petals. Yue Bing thought that it should be in the center of the city. Suddenly the guy remembered Tucheng Park. He had never really thought about why the park was named that, he suddenly realized. The boy remembered that there was only one tree in the park that bloomed with pink petals, and it was the love tree of Feicheng Language University. The guy went to it. Zhang Qi was talking to Shu Da at this time. The guy suggested her to go to a good place. Shu Da knew that if a man and a woman spent the night under the love tree, they would pass all the exams at the end of the semester. Shu Da thought that the girl would definitely fall in love with him now because this legend of lovers is real. Zhang Qi had heard that this place was quite popular because there was a corpse buried there. The guy thought it was a rumor. The guys agreed that it's just a campus legend, and it's impossible to bury a corpse under the tree of love. When the boys came to the tree, they saw an intimidating man. His eyes were glowing. Zhongqi and Shu Da were very frightened. They were dousing themselves with cold sweat. The boys got scared and ran away. They thought someone was really burying a corpse. It was actually Yue Bing who was trying to find the treasure. He thought those screams were strange. Yue Bing finally unearthed the chest. He decided to stay at the hotel for one night. Yue Bing thought that this box had been buried 100 years ago, and it was a miracle that no one had taken it away. The boy opened the drawer. Inside were porcelain vases. He wondered where the craftsman got these things. It was an antique from the Ming Dynasty. Its price was very high. First, Yue Bing needed to determine the value of these things. He thought it was best not to overcharge too much. The next day came. The sun was shining outside. The weather was perfect. Yue Bing went to the nearest antique store. He took the item to determine its value. Yue Bing heard passers-by talking about a martial arts TV show being filmed nearby. Yue Bing was attracted by the talk, however. He had his valuables with him. He didn't care about that. All the passers-by abruptly ran to see show because a descendant of Qing Xuan was filming there. Yue Bing had heard of this person. He couldn't believe that such a thing was possible. Yue Bing still decided to take one look at this show. He stood in the crowd of spectators. The host announced that the new guest of their TV show had arrived. A car pulled up to the filming location. It was the headmaster of the martial arts school, a descendant of Qing Xuan, Mr. Zhen. A long time ago, Faicheng district was an uncontrolled territory. Lawlessness ruled there, and one day young Master Jia came there. And he was met by 3 vicious mastiffs. The dogs were intimidating. They were the 3 dangerous criminals of this neighborhood. Their eyes as red as blood. Evil mastiffs walked in a group attacking people. They were evil in the eyes of the residents. When Master Jia saw these mastiffs, he folded his hands behind his back and calmly said that today he would teach those evil animals a lesson. The master slammed his palm into the air and his clothes began to move, and the air became scalding this minute. Suddenly, lightning flashed in the sky from nowhere. The 3 mastiffs were so frightened that they turned and ran away, the master taking them to his mansion. One of the spectators knew that the physical strength of the 3 mastiffs was equal to that of a tiger. Everyone thought that if Master Jia could defeat a tiger 10 years ago, now he could defeat 2 at once. The host announced that they would choose a willing person to experience Master Jia's power. The crowd was full of well-wishers, all raising their hands and asking to be chosen. The master's choice fell on a tall guy with an athletic figure. All the spectators thought that the master had chosen not a simple man, but one who was in the very dawn of strength. Master Jia noticed that the boy had a good physique. The guy replied that he was honored to meet him. The master liked the guy's modesty. He was going to use 1/10 of his power, and he was going to show it off. The master swung his hand around, he folded his fingers and was about to strike. The blow landed on the guy's stomach. From the outside, the blow seemed very strong. The guy stepped back. He clutched his stomach and looked pained. The boy crouched in pain. He staggered and could barely stand on his feet. However, it was all acting. Master Jia was paying the young man a reward for this performance. The guy gritted his teeth. It looked like this wasn't the end of the show. In the next second, Master Jia threw another punch. The guy flew aside. It was the 7 forms fist technique into the tiger. All the spectators were surprised that Master Jia had knocked this guy out. They were going to call an ambulance. Yue Bing realized that it was all very much played up and the guy was a real liar. Master Crane explained that Jia Shizhen did use his fist, but it was different from the 4 training methods. Yue Bing didn't understand what it meant or why it happened. It was the art of acting. Once upon a time long ago, practitioners went out and sold their fighting techniques as decorative martial arts. The Crane Master did not know how this man had learned the fist. Yue Bing had to follow him and find out. Master Jia was going to wait for a few days before airing, and his reputation would rise again. Yue Bing approached Master Jia from the back. He called out to him. Yue Bing said that he actually likes Gosha too, and asked him to exchange sparring experiences. Master said that he did not share his experience with strangers. He was angry with Yue Bing. Master Jia tried to scare Yue Bing with the 3 evil mastiffs in this house that could tear the guy apart. And indeed, behind the bars, the roar of the animals was heard. Their eyes showed. However, the 3 mastiffs were not mean at all. They were friendly dogs. Yue Bing was shocked that it was 3 legendary mastiffs. The guy was already nervous. 10 minutes later, Yue Bing Surge decided to show the man his sparring skills. The man accepted defeat. Master Jia said that he had bought the 7-shaped fist at the antique market 10 years ago. Yue Bing asked if the man knew about antiques because he had something he wanted to sell. The man looked at the vases and said that if this thing was real, it would be worth about 3 million. Yue Bing realized that this money could be used to open a martial arts hall. He couldn't even dream of such an amount. Master Jia was going to auction this vase. He promised that the guy would sell it for a good price. However, the master had long plans. He was going to trick Yue Bing. The boys came to Yufeng Pawn Shop. It was clear day. This was the biggest pawn shop in Faicheng City. The man was going to show a porcelain bottle here. There are some of the best pawn shops in town, and this one was also among them because its owner Chao Sanye. Yue Bing meet Third Master Chao again. The guy thought that they were bound by fate. The guys came to the inspection room. They were asked to wait because the result of the examination had come. The seller of this pawn shop is an old acquaintance of Master Jia. He was going to make him buy the bottle cheaper. The man thought that Yue Bing was an ordinary college student and he was no match for him. Meanwhile, the shopkeeper Yu Feng came in. He said that the final price was known according to the results of the examination. The shopkeeper, with a sly look, said that it was a very high-quality fake, and its price was 200,000. Master Jia was surprised that it was fake. It seemed too murky to him. The man couldn't believe it. 15 minutes ago, the shopkeeper came to Sang Ye and reported to him that a boy had brought in some porcelain. He thought it was a small matter for him. It was explained to him that the guy presented an official glass vase from the Ming dynasty, and it was worth 5 million. Sang Ye felt that there was someone behind this young man since he had such things. It was explained to him that even though he was represented by Master Jia, they were only friends with him. Sang Ye knew that the master was just a liar. He thought that traditional martial arts were trash compared to modern ones. Sang Ye felt that Master Jia wasn't even a rival to him. He was only going to accept the vase for 200,000. Master Jia asked if the shopkeeper had made a mistake. The shopkeeper said he had checked all 3 times. Master Jia thought that Sang Ye might be here as well. The man was not remotely scared. Yue Binu doubted that this is the best pawn shop Yun Feng. He demanded to give him back the vase. After all, he doesn't want to sell it. The shopkeeper explained that he and the other pawn shops were strategic partners and he wouldn't be able to sell it anywhere else. Meanwhile, in the famous land of the 7 forms, the following events took place a few days ago. Master Crane thought that it was time for Yue Bing to start a new practice. He explained that their technique was like the speed of light. That is, their technique is fast. He was going to show Yue Bin the reception of the white crane with its wings open. At this moment, Master Crane transformed into his other form and shouted loudly. The shopkeeper and Yue Bing along with him heard the crane's cry. They didn't understand what was happening. At that moment, blood appeared from nowhere. It was all happening very fast. Yue Bing clenched her hand. It was shaking from the exertion, blood dripping from it. Yue Bing sharply hit the shopkeeper's stomach with his fist. The shopkeeper flew far away. The shopkeeper was unconscious. He was lying on a table, dust rising around him. Master Jia didn't understand what had just happened. He recognized this trick. Master Jia even thought that Yue Bing was a saint after all. He could do such a thing. Yue Bing asked where his vase was. The shopkeeper replied that it was in the VIP hall. Meanwhile, Sang Ye was glad that he had gotten this vase. He was going to give it to Fei Lao so that he wouldn't be angry with him anymore. At this moment, the door of the VIP hall was kicked open by someone. This person possessed tremendous strength. It was Yue Bing. He demanded the vase back to him. The guy was very determined. In the VIP hall, Sang Ye was not alone. He was surrounded by many of his people who looked eerie. Yue Bing noticed that there were more people here than hands, but felt that he shouldn't be intimidated by such a number. Yue Bing apologized to the people. He was going to go to the bathroom. He needed to take a break and think. Yue Bin went to the restroom, which was not far from the VIP lounge as he had intended to do. A number of men, Sang Ye's guards, immediately ran up to the entrance of the restroom. Yue Bin was talking to Master Crane in the restroom. The journey to the restroom seemed like an eternity to Yue Bin. The master explained that it was because his body was in a critical position. Yue Bing thought that this was the essence of his technique. He was going to run out through the window. There was no window in this toilet. Yue Bing was very surprised. Yue Bin saw no other way out. He was drenched in cold sweat. Yue Bing clung to Master Crane. He cried and said that he couldn't die here. Crane Master was going to help his student, but it's only once because he is his teacher. Yue Bing can use the ability to transport sinners to the real world. Master Crane can stay here for about half an hour. The guards thought Yue Bin was sitting in the toilet too long, perhaps constipated. At that moment, the restroom door opened, revealing 2 silhouettes of people. At this moment, Master Crane flapped his wings. A strong energy rushed through. The guards didn't realize what those crane cries were. They were terrified. At that very second, the entire crowd of men flew away and covered the floor in blood. Sang Ye called his father and told him about the vase. His experts said it was real. My father was well versed in antiques. He came to look at this rare vase. They were about to go look at it when their wall shattered into pieces. An explosion sounded. They saw one of their men fly across the room. Sang Ye recognized his bodyguard. He didn't understand what had happened here. There was a huge hole in their wall. The third master didn't dare to step over that wall. Sang Ye told his father to run. He was going to call someone for help. There was a light at the end of this wall. It seemed to the 2 of them that they had gone through a long tunnel, and they were surprised at what they saw at the end of that tunnel. These 2 saw a crane, a real white crane with its head held high. Sang Ye along with his father were amazed. They had never seen such a thing before. The 2 couldn't believe that one person scattered all the bodyguards, and they were very strong. The crane master explained that he used his technique, and he could test the power of Chinese martial arts on them as well. The third master realized that there was a great master of traditional martial arts in front of him. He was frightened. Meanwhile, it was getting dark outside. with a large round moon visible in the sky. Still, Yue Bin sold the vase for 5 million. They were going to let all those bad guys go. Sang Ye's father asked his son to tell the truth before he died. Sang Ye was going to finish this master off if he ever went into his territory again. This time the man was going to defeat him. Because of the master, he fell in the mud in front of his father. The master walked through the city at night. He looked around and was amazed at the beauty. Master was talking to Yue Bing about how much things had changed since he had lived in China. The master believed that Yue Bing was born in a beautiful era and asked him to promise that he would protect the country. Yue Bing had promised this to Master. He was going to do just that. The white crane ran out of time and began to fade into the white light. Yue Bing was going to make sure that martial arts would flourish again in this country. The guy was very determined to accomplish this mission. Now Yue Bing had 5 million on hand. The housing prices were very low. Yue Bing was going to spend the money to buy a villa where they would open a martial arts hall. It was the largest city. The average house price is only 4,000. The neighborhood that has risen the most is Kamlok Shan. The area had beautiful scenery, nice lakes. It is a real feng shui treasure. Yue Bing had 5 million on hand. He can almost buy a house in this neighborhood. Yue Bing came to a famous real estate company. She showed him a Chinese-style development. The real estate agent was going to rip off Yue Bin. He said the house would be worth 5 million. Yue Bing thought it was too high a price. He was going to give the agent 4.5 million. The real estate agent was surprised at Yue Bing's cognition. He couldn't be fooled. The agent was about to call the owner for instructions. Yue Bin said he had 20 minutes. 20 minutes later, Yue Bing and the real estate agreed on a deal. The real estate agent said the certificate could be done in 3 days. Yue Bin suddenly thought it was a dream that he was buying a house. Yue Bing cried with happiness that he could already afford to buy real estate at the age of 18. Yue Bing wished he could take his father away right now, or else he would be scared to death. Now Yue Bing was going to open a martial arts hall and become a teacher. Suddenly, Yue Bing was called out by someone. She asked what Yue Bing was doing here. Yue Bing thought that voice sounded familiar. He turned around. It was Junlin with a tall guy beside her. Yue Bing recognized this guy. The person next to Junling is Hu Yao. In the previous life, this person was the one who broke Yue Bing's arm. He was trying to keep him away from Junlin. Yue Bing tried to keep his temper in check to avoid punching this guy. Now was not the time to fight with him. Yue Bing introduced himself. He knew that Hu Yao was a college student. Hu Yao had already heard of Yue Bin, after all. Junling had told him a lot about him. The guy could believe that Yue Bing held an important place in the girl's mind. Hu Yao was the student council president, so offered to help. In case of difficulties, he was going to shake Yue Bin's lesson. Hu Yao was practicing taekwondo. He was going to give Yue Bin a warning through shaking. The boys shook hands. They grasped each other tightly. Hu Yao did not understand what was happening now. He was very surprised. Yue Bing had inhuman strength. He felt like he was shaking a massive solid rock. Yue Bing laughed, amused by his opponent's reaction. Hu Yao yanked his hand away. It was red and swollen. The boy cried out in pain. Yue Bing asked if everything was all right. He said he just subconsciously squeezed his hand. Hu Yao realized that Yue Bing was strong and that he had underestimated him. Junling was upset. She asked how Yue Bin could bully Hu Yao. Yue Bin said he was sorry for hurting her boyfriend. Junlin said he wasn't her boyfriend, he was just a family friend. They were going to go downtown. Yue Bing said this on purpose. He wanted to get information from Junlin. Hu Yao noticed that Junlin was speaking to Yue Bin in a more intimate tone, not formally like he was. They were on their way to a boxing match. Yue Bing was surprised that the guys were going there. He queried about it. Junlin explained that in underground tiger boxing, Fai Sheng was now the third-ranked boxer. For the past few months, a new star was born on the stage. Dance. The girl suggested that Yue Bin go with them. The guys actually went to the fight. They came to the Tiger Rentals. The second-floor rostrum was reserved for Hu Yao, the best place. Hu Yao was Hu Cheng's son. The secretary was surprised that he had come to see the fight. The secretary found out that Hu Yao is a student of the State University of World Languages. She asked to take care of their future. Hu Yao seemed to be upset about something. He coughed and was about to say something. Hu Yao said that he had booked Zhongling a VIP seat. He looked very even friendly. However, Junlin wasn't listening to him at all. She was having fun and chatting with Yue Bing. Junlin suggested that Yue Bin should go to a boxing match since he is good at martial arts. Yue Bin replied that he would not participate in this underground fight boxing. Yue Bin added that they are not practicing for worldly fame and fortune, but to strengthen the body and protect people. Crane Master heard everything. He was glad that Yue Bing understood the essence of martial arts at a young age. Junling remembered that as a child, Yue Bing had clenched his fists to protect her. In the eyes of Crane Master and Zhongling, Yue Bing's figure was getting taller and taller. Yue Bing smirked sinisterly. He had purposely made this pathos speech to increase favor. Hu Yao thought that practicing martial arts for physical fitness was ridiculous. He believed that martial arts couldn't stand up to Bo Hit. After all, martial arts are only for physical training, not fighting, and that's just a cloud of lies. Hu Yao said that one can treat martial arts as a hobby, however. One should not dive too deep. Hu Yao said that this was the era of free martial arts. Only the strongest would be respected at this stage. All the fans in the stands shouted in support of Dance. They told her to dance. Hu Yao liked this kind of greeting. He smiled sinisterly. The hostess was in a rabbit costume. Her name was Miss Me, and she greeted the guests. The girl was going to familiarize the audience with the rules of the game. There were many forbidden blows in traditional fighting, such as a kick to the back of the head, a kick to the leg, and an insertion to the eye. Yue Bing knew that such actions would most likely result in death or disability. The presenter said that these techniques are not prohibited in their Tiger Arena. Yue Bin was shocked that they didn't have any rules. The host went on to say that in their case, there were 2 ways to end the tournament. The first way is to surrender, but this method will cause public applause and loss of reputation. The second method was for the participant to be knocked down after not getting up for more than 10 seconds. The presenter explained that their game is unique. They are very primitive, violent, and arousing. The presenters welcomed tonight's challenger. She told him to come out. It was the one-eyed Zhang Lu who had been defeated by the dance. The man believed he had changed, and tonight he must drag the girl from her throne. Next, Miss Me wanted to introduce the current host of the show. All the audience cheered. They had been waiting for this moment for a long time. A girl came on stage. She waved her long tail. It was a dance. She stood on a pedestal and looked proudly at the audience. The girl looked confident. She was definitely going to win today. Yue Bing knew this woman. Her name was Xiao. It seemed like they had met before. Yue Bing realized that Dance was the same gym teacher from the private high school. The guy never thought that the seemingly petite weak girl was a major underground fighter. This underground fight is brutal and bloody, with all contestants having to sign a life-and-death contract. Yue Bing didn't understand why Xiao Wu chose to go this way and what she was doing here. The anchorwoman stated that the death match has officially begun. Zhang Lu acted very fast. He swung his fist and was ready to strike the girl. The man started the fight with a blast of rain supplies, but none of the blows hit his opponent. Yue Bing was surprised that Xiao had such a flexible body. He didn't expect to see such a thing. Master Juravel told his apprentice to note that the girl is light and fast. She is a good student for blood boxing. Xiao dodged again. She was indeed moving at the speed of light. Zhang Lu did not expect such a strong opponent. He tried to strike again. The man realized that the girl had dodged to his side, catching the fleeting gap, and now his weak side was completely exposed. The girl was aiming for the very spot that would lead to the breaking of many bones. Severe fractures can damage internal organs. The girl hoped for a knockout punch. Dance threw numerous punches to the man's ribcage. They were very fast. Zhang Lu was losing consciousness, blood spurting out of his mouth. Fighter Zhang Lu appeared to be very injured, but still retained consciousness, which means the battle continues. At that moment, all the spectators shouted from the stands for Dance to kill the opponent. Yue Bin asked Manager Chen why all the spectators were yelling to kill Zhang Lu. This meant that after the opponent falls to the ground, he dies, ensuring an absolute victory. Dance claimed to fully abide by the rules of the official fight competition and never used any prohibited moves. The audience all wanted the girl to kick him in the head or break all his teeth. The audience was hoping that Dance wouldn't let him get up again and finish the fight in spectacular fashion. Dance looked at her opponent. She thought for a moment. The girl didn't want to use those techniques. She said the fight was over. Zhang Lu didn't like this arrogant tone. He had already seen such a tone last time. Zhang Lu reached the far north to wrest the throne from the girl. On his way to conquering the dance, he came across a veteran soldier who began to coach him. After going through rigorous basic training, the man's actual combat training began. His opponent was a Siberian bear, but was indeed huge. Fighting against the bear day after day, Zhang Lu's body grew stronger and stronger. He used sambo to fight. His striking technique is known for killing and spreading the Siberian continent. Zhang Lu got up from Paul and pounced on Dance from behind. He wrapped his arms around her body. Dance realized the man was going to use a technique. A deflection, she tensed. Zhang Lu put his plan into action. He threw the girl over his head. Dance hit her head hard on the floor, blood spurting from her mouth. The man still continued to hold her tightly. He wanted to make sure she was defeated. Hu Yao explained that this trick is called a German backflip, and it can cause serious damage to the opponent. Yue Bin would have been a boxer in the past, and he's familiar with this trick. It can cause back and neck injuries. Everyone thought that Xiao would no longer be able to stand, however. The girl was still conscious. For the dance, such a grab was a surprise. She thought it was necessary to quickly resume the attack. Zhang Lu thought that Dance would lose because she didn't kill him in time. The man wasn't going to make the same mistake as the girl. He was going to kill her. Zhang Lu felt as if he had lost his mind. He started hitting the girl with his fists. Dance felt like she would pass out at any moment. The man had really grown up. Zhang Lu was out of breath. He made every effort to defeat the girl. The man thought it was over. He already thought he had won. The dance lay knocked out. The announcer was about to start the countdown. The girl understood that Zhang Lu was beating her. but she only considered it as 1/10,000th of one person's cruelty. At this point, the presenter began counting down from 10. Dance began to remember events from her childhood. Her mind went blank. Her father had gambled again and wasn't himself. He was angry at his wife for leaving him 2 children and running away. The boy's father was drunk. He thought his children were useless and was holding a bat. Xiaowu was well aware of what was coming next. She told her brother to hug her. The father started beating his children. They were screaming loudly and calling for help. There was a full moon outside and it was a dark night. The children went outside. Xiao's brother asked if his sister was in pain. The girl said that in a few days everything would be fine if their father didn't beat them up. The brother thought himself useless, for his sister had always protected him and the boy himself was unhurt. Xiao was going to get a passport at 16 and take her brother out of this house. Her brother asked where they would go if they ran away from home. Xiao was going to go with her brother Hui Province to the big city, away from there. At the age of 16, the girl did just that. She left home with her brother. The 2 children suffered every day in that house. They were glad to get away from there. Xiao was finally free, but she was overcome with longing that she didn't have a home. Everyone already thought that Zhang Lu had won, however, unexpectedly. Dan stood up. The man didn't understand how this was possible. He was sure of his victory. The girl used a projectile movement technique and grabbed her opponent's neck from the back. From then on, Dance decided that she would shelter herself from the wind and rain. At this time, the hostess counted down the countdown, but for Zhang Lu's defeat. All the spectators supported the dance. They wanted the girl to win. Finally, the presenter counted to 1, which meant the girl had won. The combat participant Zhang Lu lay on the ground for more than 10 seconds. It was over. The battle dance queen was the reigning winner, and she won a record 12 consecutive victories. If the girl wins one more time, she'll become a full-fledged host. That was the end of today's fight. All the spectators were very supportive of Dance. The manager told Sang Ye that their attendance hit a new high today, and it's all thanks to the dance. The only thing the manager was worried about was the dance contract coming to an end. Sang Ye was going to talk to the girl about the contract renewal. It was very important to them. Meanwhile, they came to the fighter's locker room to talk to the Dance. Dance wasn't going to renew her contract. Sang Ye thought the girl had been recruited by another fight club. Dance assured that no one recruited her. She was only willing to participate in 13 games even at the beginning of the signing. After the next victory, the girl would have enough money. After that, she was going to leave the martial arts. Sang Ye was angry because the dance was very important to them, but he said that she could earn even more. The girl needed to make $200,000. If she kept fighting, she would lose herself. Sang Ye asked if Dance had spoken to his 3rd son. Dance said her mind was made up and thanked her for her kindness. The girl said goodbye to Sang Ye. She already had to go. Sang Ye was very angry that Dance was leaving. He broke the cup. The man was furious that Dance had allowed herself to speak to him in that tone of voice. Sang Ye was sure that his son Chao had his own way of letting her stay and work for him. Meanwhile, in Zhang Lu's living room, someone was shouting loudly and asking what the other had done. The second man said he put the cake in the living room. He made it with his own hands, and he ate the top filling of the cake. It was Zhang Lu who shouted. He was asking if the other person had a conscience. He was angry. The man thought things like the filling should be eaten with the cake. He was going to hit another person. However, this man was completely calm. He was wearing a hoodie. Sang Yi, along with the manager, felt a violent shaking from the neighboring living room. The two ran into the living room to see what had happened. Sang Yi, along with his manager, were amazed. They didn't think it was impossible. Zhang Lu was unconscious, with the guy who beat him standing next to him. He was the next opponent to Dance, Jun Hyun, the man introduced himself. At this time, Coach Chen ran behind the Dance. He asked the girl to wait. The man felt that Xiao couldn't waste her youth here and she should go to a regular boxing arena. However, the girl needed money, and from the official fights, she only couldn't make money. Besides, Dance has already knitted for battles. She can't go back. Xiao wasn't going to fight. She only had one last fight left. The events unfolded in Jinligan. A tall mountain could be seen on the horizon. Max and Joan Lin were walking home on a dark night. They were returning from a battle. Yue Bing was surprised that Xiao had become the top fighter in the underground combat arena. He didn't understand how she could be taken as a disciple. The guys reached Jun Lin's house. The girl thanked the guy for walking her. Jun Lin's house was huge. Apparently, her family was quite wealthy. Yue Bing recognized this mansion. It was the #1 house on top of Jinli Mountain. Jun Lin usually stays in the school dormitory and only comes back to live here temporarily on weekends. Yue Bing's house is halfway to the top of the mountain, so he and Zhang Ling are half neighbors. Yue Bing had bought this house for a while. He was going to tell the girl about it. Jun Lin was shocked that Yue Bin had bought a house on Jinli Mountain. She hadn't expected it. Jun Lin knew that the house halfway up the mountain was very expensive. She asked where the guy got that kind of money from. Yue Bing tried to think of a reason where he got the money from and somehow justify this purchase. At this moment, Jun Lin saw that a piece of paper was lying on the ground. The girl was stopped by this. She thought it was a flyer or something. Jun Lin picked up the sheet. It was a commercial in which women spent time with men for money. Junlin thought that after so many years, Yue Bing's family had already penetrated the rich woman's heart. Yue Bin asked what Junlin was looking at. The girl showed him the flyer. Yue Bin asked if Junlin thought Yue Bin was under the care of a rich woman. Yue Bin noticed that Junlin's face gave her away. The guy ran to the girl. She asked what he was going to do. Yue Bing grabbed her cheeks. She said she would never dare to go to Hu Yao again, and asked Yue Bing to give her a break. Junlin was surprised that after so many years, Yue Bing still remembered this trick. It was the girl's biggest weakness. In the past, he had grabbed her cheeks when she did something he didn't like. Junlin thought that Yue Bin, such a successful person, still played such childish pranks. But the girl liked him. Yue Bing really hadn't changed, and that was great. The girl liked him more and more. Yue Bin said his father won the lottery and brought Yue Bin to buy a house. Junlin remembered when she was a child. She often went to Yue Bin's house. His father would often give her candy. Yue Bin said that Junlin would come to this house often in the future, and she should feel at home there. Junlin's mind started having strange thoughts about her own home, cohabitation, and marriage. Junlin had already thought that Yue Bin was proposing to her, but it was very awkward and too fast. The girl got angry and punched a hole in the wall. Junlin pretended not to know where the hole came from. She said there was an air hole. The cost of erecting the wall is another big expense. Yue Bin's heart ached. Yue Bing hoped that everything would go well and he would be able to take Xiao as a disciple. Meanwhile, it was turbulent in the Hu family at the Feiken residence. Mr. Hu's butler reported that his guests were already waiting outside and asked if he wanted to see them now. These guests were all masters in various fields of combat, and one of the worst was a provincial strength athlete. In his house, fighters from different fields really gathered, from boxing, from judo, sambo, and others. The butler reported that everything was ready. He had found these men. Hu Yao praised him. He said that his butler would become the most powerful butler in their family. Hu Yao was further about to embark on a devilish special training. He wanted Junling to see him. Meanwhile, in the forbidden land of the seven forms, Yue Bing shouted at the master and asked him to come down. Crane Master was sitting on a huge chain. He told Yue Bin to practice by himself first, after all. He wanted to be quiet. Yue Bing asked Ben Ben what happened to the master and why he let the guy go today. The manager suggested that he was thinking about Xiao. Master Crane thought she was a good sapling, but she'd spent her youth in the arena of underground boxing. The boy looked at his teacher sadly. He understood his feelings. Master Crane asked if the guy could really make Xiao his disciple if he taught Yue Bing how to kill. Yue Bing was shocked that Crane Master had agreed to teach him this technique after all. Yue Bing wasn't quite sure, but if he could kill the Crane Fist technique in front of her, she would be touched by the power of martial arts. Crane thought it was a good plan and they should try it. Master Crane explained that in order to use the killing technique, Yue Bing must be determined and be willing to overcome difficulties. Bloody boxing is light and fast. It is the fastest of all striking skills. But Yue Bing had little time to practice. The master was going to show the real power of this technique. The master used a trick, the brightly colored wings of a white crane, and snapped the tree in half in one fell swoop. Yue Bing was shocked at this speed and the fact that it was impossible to see the trajectory of the fist. The crane master asked the manager to bring props. Ben Ben did. The manager threw 2 metal pipes at Yue Bing. He didn't expect this. These metal objects landed on the ground. They were very heavy. Yue Bing realized that they weighed several feet. He thought that they were not props, but torture instruments. Master Joravel explained that Yue Bin had to work his fighting style to the max if he wanted to master a new technique. Yue Bing had to practice with this prop 10,000 times a day. It was a technique that goes beyond the human body. Master Crane wondered how long Yue Bing would last. He chuckled. 6 days later, Sangye Tiger Arena reported that Dance did not want to sign the contract. Sanye reassured manager Zhang, for everything was under the control of his third son, Chao. Sanye asked if the manager had heard about the deputy elementary school's decision 2 years ago. Zhang knew that the man was a respected person from a higher social circle. It was said that Principal Zhou saw the teenager bullying the old man and tried to stop him. But this boy had a knife in his hand, and the principal defending justice was stabbed to death. The manager thought this boy was crazy, but luckily he was punished and sent to juvie. Sang Ye revealed that the boy who stabbed the deputy principal is Xiao's younger brother, and she owes a huge compensation. The reason a girl fights in underground boxing in the Tiger Arena is just to pay off a debt. Sang Ye was not going to let go of the dance so easily. He wanted the girl to work until she was crippled. Meanwhile, the girl went to the bank. She wanted to cash out all the money. Xiao took all the winning money in compensation for tomorrow's game. When the money is returned, her life will be easier. At this time, someone approached her. With her back to the dance, someone was running fast. She didn't have time to react. This intruder snatched the bag from the girl's hands. It contained all her money. Xiao ran after the man. She told him to return the bag. However, the man was running very fast. He was sure she wouldn't catch up to him. The man threw the bag to his accomplices, which were 2 other guys. They caught it. Xiao was surprised that someone could run much faster than her and was also able to take her bag from her. The man threatened the girl that if she took a step forward, he would break her legs. The man shouted loudly and told Xiao to stand still. He threatened her that one more step and she would lose her leg. He asked if the girl could move her leg now. There were abrasions on Xiao's leg. Just one blow had incapacitated her. The man was about to leave. He said goodbye to the dance. She tried to stop him. The man said they would see each other again. He named the dance. Xiao was surprised that this man knew her battle nickname. She didn't expect it. The girl did not understand who the man was or why he had taken her bag. Meanwhile, in the Tiger Arena manager's office, someone was laughing loudly and happy to get all the money dance. It was Sang Ye. That man had brought all the money to him. Thus, the dance was to continue working for him. The intruder was Zhuang Hen. Sang Ye told him to strangle the pride dance. The man wanted Zhuang Hen to become the next master after defeating Xiao. Meanwhile, his niece came to see Sang Ye. He was surprised that she came as his father-in-law would not be happy about it. It was Mendy, and she ran joyfully to her uncle and promised that she hadn't said anything to her grandfather. The girl asked me to let her watch boxing. She was interested. Sang Ye agreed. He told her to come to tomorrow's match. It would go down in the history of the arena. At the same time, Yue Bing was in the forbidden land of the 7 forms practicing 10,000 strikes a day. Thus, in this world, he had practiced for a full 5 months, and in reality, not much time had passed. After practicing, his body was sweating and sore, so much so that he couldn't move. However, Yue Bing was determined and still made 10,000 strikes. Master Crane praised him, and now he could practice 10,000 strikes in 6 hours. Yue Bing replied that his body had changed. He was now more confident in hitting, and his punch was more powerful. Master Crane knew that to break the boundaries of the human body, one must have an iron will. Yue Bing noticed that there was a sound that seemed flat in his body, but it was very faint. Sometimes it's like the growling of a beast, and it sounds loud. And sometimes it's like a dark cloud-covered sky, like a rumble. Master Crane knew it was an unusual noise. It was the sound of tiger, leopard, and thunder. Master Crane noticed that Yue Bing had indeed persevered for a whole 5 months. He was proud of his disciple. Yue Bing was already very eager to finally learn how to kill. Master Crane had agreed to train him after all. Master Crane explained that in order to use the killing method, he still needed to find sentience. It feels like facing a strong enemy and feeling his body burn. Yue Bing was stunned by such words. He didn't fully understand what it meant. This feeling required Yue Bing to gradually understand, and right now, Yue Bing should rest. Yue Bing was upset that his teacher left him and ran away. He noticed that his teacher liked to understate things until the end. Yue Bing realized that with his current strength, defeating Xiao shouldn't be a problem. He was going to sign up for the duel. It was Sunday. The spectators came to the arena to watch the match. The host announced that tonight was the dance's 13th fight. She wondered if the girl would be able to defend her title. After that, a dance opponent entered the arena. The girl was surprised to see him. This fighter seemed very familiar to the girl. She realized that he was the one who had taken her bag. Zhuang Heng was introduced. The man said hello and said that they had met again. Dance screamed that the villain she met that day was Zhuang Hen. She demanded her bag back. The man paid attention to Xiao's beauty. He wasn't going to give in to women. All the spectators supported the dance. They cheered for her and thought she was invincible. The popularity of the dance is very high, with over 90% of the audience betting on it. Sang Yi thought it was a reflex because before this, dance had won 12 battles in a row. The man believed that it wouldn't be a problem for Zhuang Heng to defeat Xiao. The manager was going to make this guy their star champion because he was sure to win tonight. From then on, it didn't matter if Dance agreed to renew her contract or not. Zhuang Hen would take her place. Sang Ye felt that manager Zhang had overlooked the most important points. That was human nature. He believed that Zhuang Heng had not changed, and like in the past, he would start consuming wine or playing comeback games. He had a difficult character. Sang Ye realized that the dance was not like him. She was not only strong in self-control, but also more loyal. What's also important is that this woman's talent is higher than Zhuang Heng's. The manageress understood Sang Ye's plan that he just wanted to teach the dance a lesson, not his own hands. Sang Ye believed that their casino would harvest. He believed that this trick with 1 stone and 2 crows. Sang Ye was about to lock the dance in the birdcage he had so carefully prepared for her. He felt that the girl could not run away from him forever, for she belonged to him. At this time, the weather outside turned bad and there was a rumble of lightning. Someone rose in a battlesuit, his sash developing in the wind. Yue Bing was saddened that the weather forecast was never accurate, and one should lazily lie at home in such weather. Yue Bing thought that Xiao came to the arena unprepared. She had to make sure she recovered. Meanwhile, in the arena, everyone was cheering the dance with fans shouting loudly. At this moment, Menji was shocked by what she saw. She hadn't expected such a thing. Sang Ye along with the manageress were also shocked. It looked like something hadn't gone according to plan. Zhuang Heng was brutally beating the dance. He was ruthless. The man struck one blow after another on the body of Xiao, who was lying on the ground. The presenter remarked that the dance is completely weakened today, and is not fighting at full strength. Zhuang Heng was completely confident of his victory. He was going to break her leg as promised. Zhuang Heng noticed that that blow seemed particularly painful to her, and today she barely made it to the stage. The man had plates strapped to him, so his kicks are particularly hard. Zhuang Heng believed that on this stage, there was only a winner and a loser, and nothing else mattered. There was already a crack in the girl's bone, but she wouldn't give up, for her brother was still waiting for her. The girl thought she couldn't lose. She swung around and wanted to strike. However, the dance was unable to do so, tears spilling from her eyes. Zhuang Hen hit the girl's chin with his knee. He thought that she was still too young. Dance fell to the ground, blood pouring from her mouth. The host realized it was over. The result was a surprise to everyone. Zhuang Heng stood victoriously over Xiao's body and rejoiced in his victory. The dance was defeated. Zhuang Heng became the new champion of the Tiger Arena. Xiao recalled an event from the past. Back then, her brother thought she was working in a restaurant and asked what was wrong with her hands. The girl told her brother that she washes hundreds of bowls a day and her hands would naturally get ruined. Her brother felt he could not study at such a time. He wanted to lessen his sister's worries. Xiao thought that the most important thing now was that he studied well, and she was going to change jobs next week. The vice principal helped the girl get a job, and she told her brother to study hard. Xiao wanted their little family to get better and better. But 2 weeks later, the brother wondered why Xiao still hadn't returned home. He heard his sister screaming. She was asking what the principal was going to do and trying to stop him. The boy ran out of the room. He was going to find out what was going on. The principal then drank too much and started introducing himself to Xiao. She tried to stop him. At one point, Xiao shouted and told the principal to leave, but he didn't listen to her. The girl asked the principal to please calm down. She was already tired. Xiao slapped the principal. The man was very angry. The principal threatened that Xiao, her brother, would die. He believed that there was no woman he could not get. Her brother realized how humiliated her sister was. He got very angry. The boy was going to protect his sister. He was filled with anger. Brother Xiao quickly ran towards the two. He told his sister to get out of the way. The boy had a knife in his hand. He was running straight at the principal and wanted to kill him. At one point, blood spurted. The boy still stabbed the man with the knife. Thereafter, shouts from passers-by and police shouts were heard, and the younger brother was taken to the police. 2 weeks later, Xiao went to the hospital to ask the principal for reconciliation. The principal was angry because her brother almost killed him. He was going to get a 10-year sentence. Xiao asked the principal to take pity, for her brother's life would be ruined in such a case. The principal thought about reconciliation. He had a cunning plan. He said if the girl gave him $200,000 and begged for mercy, then he would agree. Xiao remembered her childhood. Even when she was beaten by her father, she never begged for mercy. The girl thought she could overcome everything with her own strength and settle in the capital. However, things didn't go according to her plan. The girl fell to her knees. Xiao asked Director Zhou to spare her brother and sign a reconciliation agreement. After that, her brother had a shorter sentence because of the agreement, and the girl was in debt. In the next 2 years, the director was injured, and also his wife heard unpleasant rumors. As Xiao was walking down the street, she heard an advertisement about making money and becoming a star. It was an advertisement for a tiger arena, with a one-eyed man advertising the arena next to it. The girl didn't know that boxing could also bring in money. She thought it wasn't a bad option. Xiao went to Sunny's boxing gym. It was very big. There, Coach Chen said that this place is not for Xiao. He asked why she came here. Xiao was determined. She wanted to train in boxing and participate in fights. Xiao Wu came to her senses in the Tiger Arena's nurse's station. She was dreaming of the past again. Xiao looked at her leg. She was in pain. A splint had been placed on her shin. Xiao stood up. She wanted to find Master San and ask him to give her money back to her. In Sang Ye's manager's office, the results of Xiao's examination were brought in. The doctor said it was a very serious bone fracture, and even if it was treated, there would be consequences. At this moment, Xiao walked right up to the manager's door and heard their conversation. The doctor said that Dance would no longer be able to bat. The girl was shocked. Manager Zhang yelled at Zhuang Heng for breaking his leg dancing. The man replied that he was a professional athlete and would fight as hard as he could. Zhuang Hen was ready to sign a 10-year contract with the Tiger Arena. Sang Ye thought that this person would be the best choice, and with the contract in his hands, he wouldn't disobey. The decision to sign the contract was made. They raised their glasses to that. At this moment, Xiao walked into the office. She was furious. The girl said that Zhuang Heng is a robber and he stole all her savings. Sang Ye wasn't going to give her the money. He smirked slyly. It turns out he was the one who ordered Zhuang Heng to steal the girl's money. Now she is useless. He told her to get out. Xiao was angry. After all, she had worked hard for Sang Ye. She demanded her money back. The man told his men to beat up this loser and get her out of here. Sang Ye laughed loudly. Things were working out just fine for him. It was pouring outside, and someone's sad sobs could be heard. Xiao was thrown outside and left there to die. She was all beaten up. Dance was conscious. She sat upright in the road and looked up at the sky. The girl's life was ruined. She apologized to her younger brother. At this moment, someone approached Xiao. He asked what happened to her leg. It was Yue Bing. He asked who did this to Xiao. Xiao Wu did not immediately recognize Yue Bing, however. He seemed familiar to her. However, she quickly remembered that she had gone on a blind date with Yue Bing, and then they had lunch together. Xiao felt sorry that Yue Bing saw her at this very moment. She asked what Yue Bing was doing here. Yue Bing came there to take the girl as a disciple. He was unwavering. Xiao was all beaten up. She was surprised that Yue Bing still wanted to accept her as a disciple. She explained that her leg was broken, and the doctor said she wouldn't be able to fight. Xiao used to think she hated violence and boxing, but when the doctor said she couldn't fight, her heart turned to ashes. Until this moment, the girl hadn't realized how much she loved to fight. Guy asked if he asked the best doctor to fix her leg, would she fight in the arena again? Xiao thought that Yue Bing was a very good person. She agreed to become his disciple. Yue Bing handed her the umbrella. He was going to go and do something. Xiao realized that Yue Bing was heading towards the arena. She asked what he was going to do. The guy replied that Xiao was his disciple from now on. He looked very serious. Tears came to the girl's eyes. She hadn't expected to be treated like this. Yue Bing replied that he would help Xiao take shelter from the wind and rain. The guy looked intimidating. Meanwhile, the arena invited anyone who wished to come out and fight the master. The host asked if anyone wanted to try to fight Zhuang Heng. No one in the audience was going to do it, for they realized they were likely to be destroyed. However, there was one daredevil. It was Yue Bing. He was going to challenge him. The host replied that a warrior had appeared who dared to challenge the master. Yue Bing introduced himself as a martial artist, the successor of the seven-formed martial art.